Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Pirates, Comprehension is Heaven-Defying, Explosive Hammer Golden Lion. Chapter 41. Vivi was stunned for a moment, but she finally decided to tell Nami the truth. After Nami learned that those people were all from Baroque Studio and wanted to kill them, she was filled with fear. Luffy and others have also learned about this, and they are also very shocked and confused. Why do they want to kill us? Luffy asked while eating food. They have been doing this kind of thing for a long time. The cemetery on the hillside behind is the people they killed. Vivi's tone was very calm. They're doing this for money and death, so you're their target too. Then why are they entertaining us? Wouldn't it be better to just do it? Zoro was confused. Vivi looked at Zoro and continued to explain. That's the easiest way they want to use. They'll poison your wine and kill you directly after you're unconscious or asleep. So, those wines are poisonous or drugged. Sanji clenched his fists hard. This was what he hated the most. Soon Sanji also discovered a problem. His hands couldn't work hard. After Vivi saw this situation, she immediately walked to the kitchen and brought out a tray with the corresponding amount of water on it. There is an antidote in this water. You will be back to normal in 10 minutes after drinking it. Vivi began distributing these antidotes. After everyone heard Vivi's words, they all felt powerless. They originally thought it was the powerlessness caused by a hangover. But now they understand that this feeling of powerlessness is actually the cause of the poison. 10 minutes later, everyone felt their strength returned after drinking the antidote. This feeling of strength in my body is so good. Sanji couldn't wait to move his body. But those people poisoned the wine, which is really too much. Sanji said he hated this behavior very much. It seems that next time, even if it's fine wine, you can't drink it randomly. Zoro reminded himself secretly. Sure enough, there is something wrong with these people's enthusiasm. Nami also sighed. After another half an hour, everyone had finished their breakfast and were ready to move on. After they pushed the gate of opening, bloody wind blew in their faces, and corpses all over the street came into view. Looking at these corpses, everyone did not react at all and walked towards the shore. Vivi was a little surprised when she saw everyone's very calm eyes and expressions. It seems that these very kind people can be bloody at heart, but it makes sense to think about it, they are pirates. But in fact, Vivi was wrong about this. Luffy and others were accustomed to it, which does not mean that they are cruel. It only means that they are accustomed to Chen Fang's methods. As the saying goes, don't be surprised if you get used to it. The voyage of the Flying Mary is also ready to begin again. At this time, a man appeared on the boat pole. Looking at this familiar person, Vivi exclaimed, "Miss All Sunday, why are you here?" After hearing Vivi's words, Zoro and Sanji instantly became alert. They had learned through Vivi that this code name meant a senior cadre of Baroque Studio. They did not expect that the tall woman in front of them would also be a senior cadre of Baroque Studio. Zoro put his hand on the handle of the knife, ready to strike at any time. That's right, the person on the pole of this boat is a senior cadre of Baroque Studio, codenamed Miss All Sunday, and his real name is Nicole Robin. Robin ignored everyone and looked at Chen Fang. Shinigami is indeed well deserved, and is really very powerful. Don't worry, I won't be your enemy. I don't want to die yet. By the way, there is something I still need to say. I have quit Baroque Studio now. I don't want to be killed by Shinigami. Robin's words shocked Vivi. Didn't you expect that Miss All Sunday also chose to quit Baroque Studio? It seems that Shinigami's name and strength are stronger than she imagined. After all, the woman in front of her is a very important person in Baroque Studio, and she is also the highest level that Vivi can come into contact with. Nicole Robin, you came here just to talk about these things. Just to stay alive. Chen Fang's voice rang in everyone's ears. The smile on Nico Robin's face immediately faded and she looked at the Shinigami. This is a real Shinigami. He really saw those corpses. If he only knew it from information before, now he can truly experience what Shinigami is. Surviving is of course very important. Only by living can you do everything. Robin looked at Shinigami seriously. That's indeed the truth. Chen Fang nodded, and what Robin said was not wrong. Do you have anything else to do? Chen Fang asked again. Robin looked at Shinigami, explaining her true purpose. Mr. Shinigami, please tell me what I need to do to join your pirate group. Oh, you also want to join my pirate group? Chen Fang was a little surprised that Robin actually offered to join now. Yes, I want to join. What price do I need to pay or what conditions do I need to meet? Robin asked seriously. She really wants to join Shinigami's pirate crew. She needs a shelter to protect him from Marine's pursuit, which he has been doing all these years. After she came to Crocodile of the 7 Warlords of the Sea, Marine did not pursue her again. After all, the 7 Warlords of the Sea were recognized by the world government. But her shelter will soon be gone, because of the former Shinigami, and if this shelter is gone, he will be in trouble. Shinigami's pirate group has now become her best choice. Shinigami will obviously not be afraid of world government and Marine. On the contrary, world government and Marine may still be afraid of Shinigami. Maybe, Shinigami will be the next 7 Warlords of the Sea. If so, she can continue to pursue her dream and continue to live to pursue her dream. Chen Fang looked at Nicole Robin, who looked serious, and understood that this guy really wanted to join. He also knew Nico Robin very well. He also knew the reason why he joined the pirate group. As for the trouble he would cause, he didn't care. Or to put it another way, he just needs people who are looking for trouble. He takes the initiative to find someone to chop him down. If he is too tired, having others come to him to chop him up is the happiest thing. It's easy to join my pirate group, but if it's you, the price is also very simple. Just become a member of the song and dance troupe on the ship, like this Princess Vivi. Robin was a little surprised when she heard the word song and dance group, but after hearing the same thing as Vivi, she finally solved a doubt. This doubt is why Shinigami helps the princess. That's right, Vivi, the senior cadre of Baroque Studio, whose code name is Miss Wednesday, still knows her identity. Okay, I promise you, I can still do the work of the song and dance troupe. But you will find later that I am actually more suitable for other jobs. Robin is very confident about this. She believes that Shinigami will not really let her be a member of the song and dance troupe. The membership of this song and dance troupe is just a trial. Welcome to join, Nico Robin. Chen Fang laughed. When Chen Fang made the decision, the rest of the people were in a petrified state. Vivi couldn't understand the current situation at all. The former villain boss has now become a member of the song and dance troupe with the same status as her. This is really dreamy. Is she really not dreaming? However, what was even more unacceptable at this time was another member of the grass-blind group. This person is our chef Sanji. He couldn't understand at all why another beautiful girl asked Shinigami by name to let him join. And there is still a kind of person who wants to join no matter what the cost. The most outrageous thing is that this has happened twice. Zoro wasn't surprised at all by this scene. If he knew what Sanji was thinking, he would scoff and tell him directly. Curling eyebrows, this is not the second time, this is already the third time. Great, we finally have another member of the song and dance troupe. Luffy was very excited and jumped up happily. Although Usopp is also confused, he is still very happy with the addition of new members. Is there really a chance that their pirate group will grow to 8,000 people? Nami glanced at Robin, then at Vivi, then looked down at herself. Are there 3 members of the song and dance troupe now? It's really surprising. So there are more and more members in the song and dance troupe. Are they really going to prepare to sing and dance? Nami, get ready to set sail. Chen Fang's voice interrupted everyone's thinking. Okay, Vice Captain. Nami sighed helplessly and began to prepare to set sail. Robin jumped off the boat pole and walked to Chen Fang. Mr. Vice Captain, what should I do next? Chen Fang looked at Nico Robin in front of him, thought for a while, and then said. I'll leave it to you to serve tea and pour water. After all, this thing is very simple for your ability. As for the rest, I'll talk about it when I think of it. Okay, Mr. Vice Captain. Robin nodded with a smile on his face. By the way, Mr. Vice Captain, do you need to know more about the Baroque Studio? Robin observed Chen Fang's performance with a smile. Just tell me their specific locations. Okay, Mr. Vice Captain. So Robin began to introduce the information she knew, which was the location of the senior cadres of Baroque Studio. At this time, on the other side, Sanji clenched his fist. He didn't understand why there were so many women around Shinigami, and they were all beautiful women. After he couldn't stand it anymore, Sanji walked directly to the kitchen. He wanted to communicate with the cooking to forget these sad scenes. At this time, in a small shop in the Desert Kingdom, a fat man wearing a black hat, a black beard, and a black cloak was drinking water. The fat man drank water while observing his surroundings. He was looking for something, and he was still avoiding the pursuit of his captain. Although he is not afraid of his captain, the captain's strength is still a bit troublesome and will delay his plan. After the fat man drank the water, he left the shop and walked into the wind and sand. In a place called New World, a tall man with a scarf covering his face got on a boat and headed towards the Desert Kingdom. He was going to kill someone. One day later, the Fatian Melee was still sailing on the sea. The sun at noon was very scorching, but this did not affect Chen Fang from basking in the sun at all. Beside Chen Fang, there were many cattail fans swaying. Chen Fang enjoyed the cool wind. Don't tell me, the ability of the flower fruit is really good. Robin's development of the flower fruit is very suitable for use as a maid. During this day, Robin used her abilities to easily integrate into the Straw Hat Pirates, and she also roughly understood some of the personalities of everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates. She has adapted to her current identity. Her current status as a maid is still very simple for her. Anyway, as long as she completes her work, she can do her own thing. At this time, a seagull flew across the sky. It dropped a newspaper and several bounty lists. After Robin saw this scene, he caught the newspaper and the reward list with his hands. She did not choose to check the newspaper and the reward list, but sent them to Chen Fang immediately. Chen Fang opened his eyes, took the newspaper, and put the reward list aside. He carefully began to check the newspaper, which was an important means for him to understand the latest news today. The information circulation in the pirate world relies on this kind of newspaper. They don't have telephones or internet information here, so information generally has a high lag. Although there are phone bugs here, this kind of voice information is not as good as this kind of text information, and text type information is the clearest expression. After reading the information in the newspaper, Chen Fang shook his head. There was nothing particularly big in the newspaper. If there was anything big, it would be related to him. He threw down the newspaper and turned to look at the bounty list next to him. These bounty lists were quite targeted. They were the bounty lists for the Straw Hat Pirates and their crew. But he doesn't care about this. Being wanted is the fate of a pirate. Can a pirate who is not wanted really be considered a pirate? At least not in the world of pirates. Robin, let me and them take a look at the bounty list written in this newspaper. Chen Fang's voice sounded in Robin's ears. Understood, Mr. Vice Captain. Robin took the bounty list and newspaper and began to inform the rest of the people. After seeing Robin's reminder, the Straw Hat Pirates all came to the deck one after another. Robin, what's going on? Nami asked doubtfully. She still had a good impression of this member of the song and dance troupe. Yes, what happened to Robin? I was eating. Luffy was a little confused and dissatisfied. He was dragged out with a meaty leg in his hand. The rest of the people were also very confused, and they were waiting for Robin's answer. Everyone, I have good news for you. You are all wanted. Robin looked at everyone with a smile. You're lying, am I already wanted? That's great. Luffy was very excited, he had been waiting for today. Am I wanted? So, I am indeed a pirate too. The corners of Zoro's lips raised, which was really interesting. Isn't it? Am I already wanted? A look of horror appeared on Usopp's face. He didn't want to be wanted at all. Are you kidding? I didn't do anything. Nami was also very confused and panicked. And the calmest among them is Sanji. He doesn't care at all about whether he is wanted or not. If he is wanted, he will be wanted. He is a pirate. Isn't this normal? Robin, let me see how much my wanted bounty is. Luffy ran towards Robin. Robin watched Luffy running towards him, took out a wanted poster and handed it to Luffy. Congratulations, Captain Lu, the bounty is 3 million Baileys. Luffy took the wanted notice and looked at the numbers above. Soon, he was a little disappointed. Is it only 3 million? It feels a lot different from the deputy captain. Where are the rest of the people? Luffy quickly regained his vitality and asked. Robin smiled and began to announce the bounty of the Straw Hats. Everyone is also looking forward to it. Usopp and Nami were afraid and looking forward to it. They are afraid that their bounty is too high and they will be killed, but they have expectations for the value. If the bounty is higher, it means that they are quite valuable. If they are really valuable and you run out of money in the future, you can consider selling them yourself, which is also a good way to make money. Pirate swordsman, Zoro, has a bounty of 5 million belly. The cook, Sanji, has a bounty of 500,000 belly. Little thief cat, Nami, the bounty is 1 million belly. The king of lies, Usopp, has a bounty of 100,000 baileys. After hearing about their bounty, some were happy and some were sad. Zoro is quite satisfied with his bounty. After all, his bounty is the highest besides the deputy leader. Nami is a little scared that his bounty is so high. He wants to sell himself for money. But no, he must protect himself and never let himself be exchanged for bounty by others. The moment Usopp heard about his bounty, he was completely confused. Why was he the least among the Straw Hats, with only a mere 100,000? Although he doesn't want to be wanted, he also doesn't want his bounty to be so small. After Sanji heard the amount of his bounty, he was no longer as calm as before. He was a little desperate, confused and resentful. After hearing about the bounty of the green algae-headed swordsman, he felt that his bounty could never be lower than that of the green algae-headed swordsman, it must be higher than him. But the final bounty for him was 10 times less than that of the green algae-headed swordsman. Who was the person who selected this bounty? Is he so blind? How could he be a waste compared to that green algae-headed swordsman? Is Zoro's bounty higher than mine? That's really impressive. Luffy admired Zoro. Robin looked at everyone's reactions and laughed. The bounty for these people was actually much lower than he thought. This bounty is indeed too low, but the one over there is too high. That's right, Shinigami's bounty has increased again, now reaching 1.4 billion belly. Robin also felt a little incredible about this amount of bounty, which was actually increased by 200 million again. You must know that the bounty of 7 warlords of the sea is only tens of millions. However, the bounty of 7 warlords of the sea is low, which is understandable. After all, after the government recognizes their existence and status, their bounty will not increase. At this time, Zoro sensed someone's gaze and someone's murderous intent. He looked at the man with a smile. What's wrong? Curl your eyebrows. The bounty is a bit low. Are you unhappy? It's okay, you don't have to worry about it, I can give you some. Zoro's words were full of provocation and eccentricity. The person looking at him is none other than our chef Sanji. Sanji's expression was very angry, but his tone was still very disdainful. Do I need you to share some of the bounty? My field is lower than yours simply because I haven't performed yet. Just wait, green algae head, my bounty will soon exceed yours. Zoro smiled and continued to challenge, then I'm really looking forward to it. Let's see what you will do next time. Then just wait and see. The two began to confront each other, with the two momentums constantly clashing without giving in at all. Chen Fang ignored these two people at all. Based on the information in the newspaper and what he already knew, he deduced another piece of information. If nothing else happens, Blackbeard should be in Alabasta now, and he is still somewhat concerned about the ability of the dark fruit. And this time in Alabasta, he would definitely be able to meet Fire Fist Ace. He was also curious about the ability of that devil fruit. If possible, it is best to get both fruit abilities. After the natural fruit ability is awakened, its intensity is still very strong. Soon, the matter about the bounty came to an end, and they no longer cared about it. After all, the things in front of them were the most important. Robin examined the situation in front of him and had a deeper understanding of this pirate group. The atmosphere of this pirate ship was quite good. They also continued to move towards Alabasta. The yellow sand is flying all over the sky, constantly beating the kingdom shrouded in yellow sand, and the camel bells are constantly echoing in the kingdom. A tall man with red and yellow clothes and goggles on his head walked out of the yellow sand. He put his luggage on the table and shouted to the owner of the shop. Boss, bring a bowl of water and some food. Okay, I'll come right away. The boss responded enthusiastically. Soon, a bowl of water was brought over. The tall man took the water and drank it in one gulp. It's really nice. He seemed a little unsatisfied. Boss, please give me some more water. The tall man drank up a bowl of water again. This desert was really short of water and needed constant replenishment. 10 minutes later, the tall man left the small restaurant after paying. He is going to continue his journey. He was once the captain of a pirate group. No, not even now. What he has to do now is to capture a defecting team member and deal with it. Nami looked at the treasure in front of her with a happy smile on her face. These treasures belong to the members of the Baroque studio at Whiskey Peak. For the safety of Princess Vivi, Ikaram gave all these treasures to Chen Fang, and of course Chen Fang accepted them all. After another day of sailing, everyone arrived at the next island. Looking at the dense and tall trees on this island, Chen Fang knew that he had arrived at the Island of Giants. He is quite interested in the giants in the pirate world. After all, in the original world, it was impossible to have creatures like giants. Therefore, he was very curious about the body structure of this giant in the world. What kind of body structure can support such a huge body? Wow, that tiger is so big, and he's still following us. Luffy's roar sounded, and everyone was attracted by the sound and looked in the direction of Luffy's finger. Sure enough, on the shore next to them, there was a huge tiger following them. This huge tiger was several times the size of an ordinary tiger. The tiger opened his mouth wide and looked at them eagerly. There seemed to be drool dripping from the corner of his mouth. Chen Fang turned to look at Sanji. Tiger meat, can you cook it? Of course, I can cook any ingredients. Sanji held his head high and was very proud. Chen Fang nodded and turned to look at Zoro. Zoro curled his lips and understood what Chen Fang meant. He pulled out his knife and jumped towards the shore. 5 minutes later, Zoro was back on the boat, carrying the huge tiger on his shoulders. Hey, curly eyebrows, I'll leave it to you next. Zoro threw the giant tiger he was carrying directly at Sanji. Sanji took the huge tiger's body, walked towards the kitchen, and then said something. Leave it to me next, and I will let you know what a real chef is and what real cooking is. Wow, that's great. We have tiger meat to eat. Luffy was very excited. Tiger meat, what does it taste like? Usopp was also curious. The rest of the people were also very curious. The animals in this place look very big, much bigger than normal. Nami looked at a huge rabbit on the shore and murmured to himself. Everyone, should we go explore this island? This island seems very interesting. Luffy looked at everyone and began to ask for their opinions. Then let's meet before lunch. After Chen Fang said this, he jumped directly towards the shore. After everyone saw this scene, they were very shocked. Before they could speak, the vice captain had already disappeared from their sight. So the adventure was decided, but Robin and Vivi chose to stay on the boat. One because he didn't want to explore, and the other because he was too familiar with the place. Chen Fang had already arrived in the forest at this time. Looking at the huge dinosaur in the forest, Chen Fang was very interested. The long knife was unsheathed and a dinosaur was beheaded. Chen Fang followed the dinosaur's body and came to its head. Looking at the head of the dinosaur in front of him, Chen Fang was a little curious. He picked up the head with a knife. The weight of the head was heavier than expected. Judging from this structure, there doesn't seem to be much difference, but why is it so big? Does it have something to do with the structure of bones and muscles? After some investigation, Chen Fang did find differences in structure, and there were some unexplainable things. The difference in structure, coupled with the unexplainable things, created the existence of this huge creature. Sure enough, in the pirate world, there is no way to completely explain it using the knowledge of the previous world. Soon, Chen Fang's frown relaxed, and there seemed to be no point in worrying about this. Just when Chen Fang wanted to leave directly, a huge sound sounded, which seemed to be the sound of footsteps. He turned his head, and sure enough he saw a huge figure walking towards him. That was the giant of the pirate world. At the same time, this is also one of the two giants on the Island of Giants. The name of this giant is Dongli. Chen Fang didn't like to look up at others, so he quickly flew up and looked at the giant's level. You look very strong. The giant Dongli's voice sounded. It's okay, Chen Fang replied. Just when the giant Dongli wanted to speak again, another voice sounded again. Another giant, Brigi, rushed over here with a weapon in his hand. After seeing giant Brigi rushing towards him, giant Dongli raised his weapon and faced him. The war between the two giants is about to begin. Compared to the battle between the two giants, Chen Fang was still more interested in their body structures. In theory, their body structures should be similar to humans. But through his exploration of the dinosaur's body just now, he found that there are still certain differences. This may be the reason why the pirate world is different from the original world. There is no such thing as a pirate world in the original world. After watching the battle for a while, he felt a little bored, so he turned around and left. This kind of battle is still very powerful in terms of strength, but it is difficult to evaluate in other aspects. At this time, a figure of a person appeared in the forest. This person was very recognizable. He had a braid with the number 3 on his hair. He is one of the senior cadres of Baroque Studio, codenamed Mr. 3. Another little girl appeared behind him. This was his partner, codenamed Miss Goldenweek. If nothing else, those people at Whiskey Peak have been killed by Shinigami. I must avenge them, and I must avenge Mr. 5. Mr. 3 was very angry. At this time, the little girl's voice sounded. Are you sure you can really take revenge? Are you sure you are not going to die? Don't forget, that guy's strength is very terrifying. I advise you to go back with me. Let others deal with people of this strength. What did you say? We just went back in despair. Mr. 3 turned to look at the little girl angrily. Otherwise, are you really going to die? The little girl shrugged. Okay, don't waste time, I'm going back to rest and eat scallops. The little girl turned and walked towards the back. After Mr. 3 saw this scene, he glanced at the straw hat boy who was wandering over there, and then turned to look at the little girl walking away. Finally, he stamped his feet and chased after the little girl. More than 2 hours later, everyone who went out to explore returned to the boat. At this time, Sanji also appeared on the deck. Part of the tiger's meat has been cooked. You can come over and have a taste. Really, is it ready to eat? It's so good. Luffy ran directly towards the kitchen. Is this the meat of a special huge tiger? This is the first time I have the opportunity to make a debut. Chen Fang also walked towards the kitchen. I want to try it too. Usopp hurriedly ran towards the kitchen. He was afraid that he would be late and be eaten by Luffy. While everyone was eating, they were talking about the strange things they discovered on the island. Chen Fang kept chewing this special tiger meat. The taste of tiger meat was indeed very good, and Sanji's cooking skills were quite good. After finishing his meal, Chen Fang stood up and walked out of the cabin. At this time, the two giants on the island stopped their fighting, and they were a little tired. At this time, the giant Dongli spoke. I just met a very strong human being. I think it's too boring for us to fight now. Why don't we challenge that human being? We can also judge which of us is stronger by that human. If I defeat that human, but you can't defeat him, doesn't that mean I'm stronger? Another giant, Raji, was very angry after hearing this. Are you kidding me? How could I not beat that human? How could I lose to you? Then let's go challenge that human and see who is stronger. Just go. So the two giants headed towards the direction of the Flying Mary. Not long after, Chen Fang, who was lying on the recliner, heard footsteps approaching. He opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the sound. It turned out to be the two giants from the Island of Giants, the giants Tori and Brigi. The two giants were walking in this direction. The loud sound also attracted the attention of the rest of the people in the cabin, and they immediately came to the deck from the cabin. Those two guys are the two giants I told you about. Do you see how big they are? Luffy shouted excitedly to the people next to him. It is indeed very big, worthy of being a giant. Usopp was very shocked. Is this the giant race? It's really huge. Nami's eyes widened. But what do these giants want to do? Sanji was a little confused. How did these two guys come here? Robin looked at the two giants in confusion. After coming close to the Fatian melee, the giant Dongli pointed at Chen Fang and said, Humans, duel with us to see which of us is stronger. Chen Fang was a little surprised after hearing this. Are you sure you want to fight me? If you fight me, you will die. Chen Fang put his hand on the handle of the knife and looked at the two giants. Of course we will fight you. We are not afraid of death. Giant Dongli laughed. At this time, everyone on the boat was very surprised. It turned out that these two giants were the ones who challenged their vice-captain. Can we see the battle between the giant and the vice-captain now? It's great. Luffy jumped up happily, which was very interesting to him. Giants, they don't look easy to cut. Zoro looked at the two giants in front of him. Why did these two giants choose to challenge Shinigami? Is it because they have been fighting each other for 100 years and find it a bit boring? Robin speculated in his heart. Since you are not afraid of death, then I will help you. Chen Fang flew into the air and looked straight at the giant Dongli in front of him. Then let's go fight over there. We can't use it here. Giant Dongli suggested. No problem. Chen Fang nodded. The giant Dongli took steps towards the battle venue he chose, and Brigitte immediately followed. Chen Fang flew beside the two giants and headed towards the battle site. Everyone, let's watch the battle together. Luffy jumped off the boat and rushed over first. Then let's go and have a look. Zoro also jumped under the boat. How could I not get involved in this kind of scene? I didn't go on the previous adventure. How could I miss it now? Sanji lit a cigarette and jumped off the boat. Wait for me, Luffy, I'm going too. Usopp shouted hurriedly. The other members also chased after him, and they were also more curious about the battle between Chen Fang and the giant. Who will win? The impact these giants have brought to them is very big. Maybe they can tie with the vice captain. After Robin watched everyone leave, she shook her head. The outcome of the battle was already determined. There was nothing interesting about this battle. She found a seat to sit down and started reading. Robin, aren't you going to see it? Vivi looked at Robin in confusion. Through this period of getting along, Vivi's name for Robin has changed. There's nothing to see in that battle. It's just a battle with a predetermined outcome. Robin's tone was very calm. Is the battle destined to end? So do you think the vice captain might win? Vivi asked again. Robin raised his head and looked at Vivi in surprise. It seems like Princess Vivi, you have really high expectations for Mr. Vice Captain. Don't you think of him as your savior? Princess Vivi. Vivi shook her head. He is not a savior, he is just Shinigami. Shinigami brings only death. As for the rest, we still need our own struggle. But if Shinigami didn't bring death, we wouldn't have the possibility to fight. You should know better than us about the conspiracy of Baroque Studio. After saying these words, Vivi looked closely at Robin in front of her. After hearing what Vivi said, Robin smiled and shook his head. It seems that Princess Vivi is still dissatisfied with her for not informing Baroque Studio of the conspiracy. Regarding this point, it is actually better for her not to tell her. The more things she knows, the better. Knowing too much will only lead to destruction. Just like her hometown, wasn't her hometown destroyed just because she wanted to know something she shouldn't know? Vivi looked at the faint sadness in Robin's eyes and felt a little surprised. What happened to Robin? Was it because of her questioning? So Robin didn't want her to mention the matter of Baroque Studio, so let's not mention it. Vivi sighed. Well, Robin, do you want some tea? Vivi had no choice but to use this reason to ease the current atmosphere. Robin immediately exited the memory and looked at Vivi. This princess seems to have adapted to her current status and completely regards herself as a maid. Thank you then. Robin smiled. Okay, Robin, just wait, I'll make you tea right away. Vivi immediately walked towards the cabin. At this time, the other side. Everyone has arrived at the fighting venue. Chen Fang and Giant Dongli have already stood face to face, ready to fight at any time. Then let's start directly. There are no rules in this battle. As long as he can defeat the opponent or repel the opponent. After the giant Dongli said these words, he raised his weapon and rushed towards Chen Fang. Chen Fang unsheathed his sword and waved the bloodthirsty knife in his hand. The weapon in the hand of giant Dongli was instantly chopped into pieces. He looked at the scene in front of him in shock. His weapon actually. The next second, giant Dongli felt a chill on his neck and lost consciousness. Chen Fang watched the giant Dongli's head fall and sheathed his sword. He didn't want to waste any time. Since he really wanted to fight, he must have been prepared to die. After killing the giant Dongli, Chen Fang looked at another giant Brigitte. This giant also proposed to challenge him, but he didn't know if he still wanted to challenge him. Brigitte was very shocked at this time. He didn't expect that Dongli would be killed instantly. Dongli, who had been fighting with him for 100 years without a winner, was actually killed by the man in front of him. Do you still want to challenge me? Chen Fang's voice sounded in the ears of everyone and the giant Brigitte. After Brigitte heard this voice, he swallowed subconsciously. This was the first time in so many years that he felt fear, the fear of death. Dongli died so quickly that even giants like him, who had experienced more than 100 years of fighting, were frightened. Eventually, Brigi overcame his fear. He is a powerful warrior of the giant race, how could he be afraid of death? So he once again challenged the man in front of him. 5 seconds later, with a thud, Brigi's head fell to the ground, making a small crater. Chen Fang turned around and walked towards the Fatian melee. It was time to go to Alabasta. Crocodile was still waiting for him. Luffy looked at the scene in front of him in shock. Both giants were killed instantly by the vice captain. This strength was too powerful. When would they reach this level of strength? Zoro held his knife tightly. So, are giants so easy to cut? Sanji glanced at the corpses of the two giants, then turned to look at Chen Fang who was leaving. The road to revenge was long and arduous. Usopp's jaw dropped in shock. Are the giants also so vulnerable? After the shock, everyone headed in the direction of the Fatian Mary, and the journey had to continue. At this time, in the sky full of yellow sand, a man wearing a hat and carrying a big knife behind his back walked toward the town. When the man had just walked into the town, another man wearing a mink coat appeared in front of him. That man's arm has a very iconic item, a gold hook. Yes, this man is Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Crocodile looked at the man in front of him who also lost his left arm and laughed. I never thought you would have this day, Hawkeye, you also become one-armed, ha ha ha. That's right, this man who just arrived in this desert country is none other than Hawkeye, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. All this is thanks to Shinigami. That guy is terrifyingly powerful. Hawkeye stared at Crocodile in front of him. What do you mean? Crocodile raised his eyebrows. I'm not strong enough, so I want to join forces with you to avenge my broken arm. Hawkeye said his intention. Oh, is that guy really as powerful as you said? He actually needs 2 of us, 7 warlords of the sea, to join forces. Crocodile was a little confused. Yes, Shinigami is more powerful than you think. That guy's swordsmanship and devil fruit abilities cannot be underestimated. Hawkeye's tone was very serious. Is it a devil fruit ability? Sure enough, Shinigami also has a devil fruit. Crocodile's eyes became serious. What kind of fruit power does that guy have? I think it's a split fruit. Hawkeye immediately answered Crocodile's question. Split fruit, doesn't that fruit already possess powers? Crocodile looked at Eagle Eye in confusion. He didn't quite believe what Eagle Eye said. That fruit ability user is already dead. He was killed by Shinigami before he fought with me. Hawkeye said this again. Even if it is killed, shouldn't the location of the fruit appear randomly? Is it really such a coincidence? Crocodile gradually began to believe that the possibility of Hawkeye deceiving him was very low, and the possibility of Hawkeye wanting to cooperate was very high. After all, this guy's arm was cut off by Shinigami. At this time, Hawkeye once again said something that shocked Crocodile. Beyond that, I think the Shinigami may have a second devil fruit ability. Are you serious, Hawkeye? How can one person have the ability of 2 devil fruits at the same time? No one can do this. Crocodile didn't believe what Hawkeye said at all. Even if he can believe that Shinigami has the ability to split the fruit, he absolutely cannot believe that Shinigami has the ability to split the fruit. Does Shinigami have the ability of the second devil fruit? We'll find out when we fight him. Hawkeye didn't care whether Crocodile believed him or not. In fact, he was just guessing. In this case, the cooperation is reached, let's end this so-called Shinigami together. Crocodile smiled and stretched out his hand. Eagle Eye looked at Crocodile's outstretched hand, hesitated for a moment, then stretched out his hand and touched Crocodile. It seems that you are still not open-minded enough, Hawkeye. There is nothing you can do if you lose something like your arm. Crocodile laughed. That's right, the hand Crocodile stretched out was his left hand, the hand with the gold hook. I am a swordsman, and the impact of losing a hand is greater than you think. Hawkeye shook his head, ignoring the sarcasm in Crocodile's tone. But you still need to adapt, you have to adapt. Crocodile's tone became serious, and he stared at Hawkeye. Looking at Crocodile with a serious expression, Hawkeye smiled. That's really something that can't be helped. Fortunately, I've almost adapted to it recently, and it won't have much impact on subsequent battles. Perhaps I should also find a devil fruit that suits me. Or there is another possibility. After breaking off a hand, my swordsmanship may be able to continue to improve. Then I wish you success. Crocodile patted Hawkeye on the shoulder. I hope the result is indeed like this. Devil fruits are rare. Hawkeye slapped Crocodile's hand away and walked forward. Crocodile didn't care about Hawkeye's behavior. He smiled and looked at Hawkeye's back. Since you are now a collaborator, I will entertain you well. Let's wait for Shinigami's arrival at the Alabasta Palace together. After saying this, Crocodile chased after him. On the vast sea, the flying melee is sailing, and Nami is steering the helm. Chen Fang stood up from the recliner and looked at Nami. At this time, Nami's face was slightly red. If nothing else happened, something would happen. Nami, go to the storage compartment and take out the things I bought before, those things that are specially marked. Hearing this voice, Nami turned her head in confusion. Vice Captain, those things seem to be medicines. What's the use of taking them over now? Since it is medicine, it must be used to treat diseases. Chen Fang replied. Treat the disease, who is sick? Nami was still a little confused and puzzled. It seemed that no one was sick on the ship. You are the one who is sick. If you don't treat it now, it will get worse. In this weather, it will be difficult without someone at the helm. Am I sick? But I feel like I'm fine now. Nami wanted to say something else, but she suddenly realized that she seemed to be unable to speak anymore. After all, it was the vice captain who was speaking in front of her, so she would just do it immediately. When Nami came to the storage warehouse, she suddenly felt dizzy and almost couldn't stand still. Sure enough, could I be sick? Nami showed an expression of helplessness and realization. She shook her head, stabilized her body, and walked towards a special storage space. This place had all kinds of medicines that she had bought at the market before. She had previously wondered why the deputy captain, who was not a doctor, had to stock up on so many medicines. Coupled with the previous incident, it now seems that the vice captain really knows medical skills. Nami quickly came to the deck with these things. Chen Fang took the medicine box from Nami's hand and motioned for Nami to sit down. Give me your hand. Chen Fang looked at Nami who was sitting. Nami obediently stretched out her hand, but looked at Chen Fang with some confusion. Chen Fang held Nami's hand and began to feel her pulse. After 30 seconds, Chen Fang let go of Nami's hand. He picked through the medicine box and quickly got the medicine. After getting the medicine, he took out a pen and a piece of paper from the medicine box and started writing. After writing, he handed both the paper and the medicine to Nami. Take this and let Sanji boil it. I have written the specific method on this piece of paper. After you give the medicine to Sanji, go back and lie down. After drinking the medicine, take a rest. Thank you, Deputy Captain. Nami took the medicine and paper and expressed her sincere thanks. Get well as soon as possible and don't delay the voyage. Nami took the medicine and paper and walked towards the cabin. Looking at Nami's back, Chen Fang shook his head. Sure enough, we still need a ship's doctor, but we can get there soon. By the way, isn't that the next stop? Just capture him. Afterwards, Chen Fang lay on his recliner again. It was still comfortable to lie down. Doing nothing was the most comfortable, and doing whatever he wanted was even more comfortable. Zoro on the side glanced at Chen Fang. He now had a new understanding of the vice captain. 3 hours later, Nami regained her energy completely and came to the deck. These 3 hours felt like the most uncomfortable 3 hours in her life. But fortunately, there was medicine given by the vice captain, which took effect very quickly. Thank you, vice captain. Nami bowed deeply. Chen Fang opened his eyes, took a look, and said, we will soon reach the next extreme weather zone. Let's sail well, navigator. I understand, vice captain, I'll be there right away. Nami immediately turned back to work. At this time, Sanji walked out of the cabin and looked at Chen Fang. Sanji was still very surprised about Nami's situation before and the things Nami brought over. He originally thought that what Nami brought over would be some kind of food, but he didn't expect it to be some kind of medicine. And after he knew that it was given to him by Vice Captain Shinigami, he was even more surprised. What shocked him even more was that some of the so-called medicines were actually dishes. Therefore, after taking the medicine, he did an experiment and finally confirmed that the medicine was indeed not poisonous, and then gave it to Nami to drink. But he didn't expect that the medicine would take effect so quickly. Nami, who was in so much pain before, completely recovered half an hour after drinking the medicine. This guy Shinigami seems to know a lot more than he thought. At this time, Nami's voice sounded. Everyone, we will soon enter the extreme weather waters, please be prepared. Is it a sea area with extreme weather? What kind of weather will it be like? Sanji was a little curious. After a while, Chen Fang looked at the falling snowflakes in the sky and realized that he was almost there. Luffy, come out and take a look, it's snowing. Usopp shouted excitedly as he just walked out of the cabin. What, it's snowing? Luffy immediately ran out of the cabin. The scattered snowflakes fell on Luffy's spread hands, shoulders, and everywhere on his body. It's really snow. Is this what snow feels like? Luffy excitedly began to catch the snowflakes all over the sky with his hands. Is this the so-called extreme weather? Could it be snow? Sanji murmured to himself as he looked at the flying snowflakes. Chen Fang stood up from the deck chair and walked towards the cabin. 5 minutes later, he walked out of the cabin, already wearing thicker clothes. With his current physical condition, he doesn't need to wear such thick clothes, but in snowy weather, he is still used to wearing more clothes. After Nami saw this scene, she also remembered the supplies in the cabin. Just when she was about to change into thick clothes, Vivi walked out of the cabin. She was holding a lot of thick clothes in her hands now. Everyone, thick clothes have been prepared for you. Come and put them on together. Nami ran up to Vivi and kissed Vivi. Thank you, Vivi, it was so timely. Vivi looked at Nami with a smile. Nami, please wear this suit. I chose it specially for you. It will definitely look good on you. Really? Then I'll wear this one. Nami took the suit of clothes from Vivi and put them on. At the same time, the rest of the people also felt the chill and ran to Vivi one after another. Vivi, where's mine? Where's mine? Luffy asked one after another. Everyone has one, this is your Luffy. Vivi handed a set of red clothes to Luffy. Looking at the other people gathered around, Vivi began to do the work of distributing clothes. Not long after, everyone had put on thick clothes, the cold was driven away, and their bodies became warm. After Nami changed her clothes, she walked around in front of Vivi. How's it going? Does this look good on me? Good looking, really good looking, Nami, you are so beautiful now. She praised with a smile. Does it look good? If it looks good, that would be great. Nami looked at his clothes with satisfaction, turned back to his post, and continued to steer. She looked at the magnetic needle in her hand and nodded with satisfaction. This magnetic needle was still very useful. As the voyage continued, the snow fell heavier and heavier, but the Fatian Meili still sailed according to the established route. At this time, on the other side, there were no snowflakes here, but it was still very hot here. In the desert, a tall man in red was looking at the fat man in front of him calmly. Blackbeard, don't run away anymore. You can't escape. You'd better go back with me. Ace, my good captain, are you kidding me? How can I go back with you? A mocking smile appeared on Blackbeard's face. Since you don't want to, then I have to take you back by force. Flame appeared in Ace's hand. Let's see how strong you are, Captain. Blackbeard laughed. The momentum of both of them is constantly rising. The fiery red flames and the deep darkness are constantly colliding. Ace took the lead and rushed towards Blackbeard, his fists filled with red flames. Not to be outdone, Blackbeard also rushed over, using his jet black fists to fight back. In an instant, their fists collided. The moment the fists collided, Blackbeard's face showed an expression of pain, but there was also madness in the pain. Captain, you're not that strong, it still doesn't hurt enough. Really? Then let me show you the stronger strength. The fiery red flames instantly enveloped Blackbeard and swept towards Blackbeard. Blackbeard looked at the sweeping flames and immediately took a step back, and deep darkness appeared under his feet. Darkness and flames collided with each other. They both wanted to destroy each other, but they were unable to do so. As the collision progressed, the darkness and flames spread wider and wider, and more darkness and flames appeared on the desert. Standing in the deepest darkness and flames, there were two figures colliding rapidly. As the collision progressed, there was also a crazy laughter echoing. 10 minutes later, the darkness moved into the distance, and the flames immediately chased after it. Soon, the flames followed the darkness and came to a city. The residents of the city looked at the endless darkness approaching and the fiery red flames chasing behind them, with expressions of horror on their faces. What the hell is that? It's so scary. Don't be stunned. Run away. Help, run. The residents of the city were very panicked. The darkness brought them deep fear, and they began to flee in panic. But it was all in vain. Darkness quickly enveloped them. At this time, they seemed to hear an angry roar. Blackbeard, don't affect those civilians. Another crazy voice also sounded. You said it won't be affected, right? Ace, are you a little too naive? The endless darkness still enveloped the entire city, and the fiery red flames continued to invade the darkness, but it still didn't help. 20 minutes later, the darkness moved into the distance again, but this time, the flames did not choose to follow it. 3 minutes later, the traces of darkness had disappeared, the flames slowly diminished, and the last figure appeared in the ruins. Looking at the city being razed to the ground in front of him, Ace clenched his fists. It was all his fault for not being able to stop Blackbeard. He glanced at the direction where Blackbeard was going. He would definitely take that guy back, but he had other things to do now. Facing the ruins in front of him, Ace bowed slowly. After standing up, he began to do what he needed to do. A seagull is flying in the snow, and it is doing its work. Soon, with its excellent eyesight, it discovered a pirate ship below. So it immediately dropped a newspaper, and then flapped its wings and flew into the distance again. The newspaper that fell from the sky was successfully caught by a person on the boat. After Zoro got the newspaper, he sent it to Chen Fang. Chen Fang took the newspaper and started reading. Looking at what happened on the most prominent page of the newspaper, Chen Fang raised the corner of his mouth. It seems that Crocodile's planning process is also speeding up. It's not like he wants to finalize the matter before he arrives. Soon, in another corner, Chen Fang discovered another interesting news. The battle between two people led to the complete destruction of a city, and among the ruins stood a figure. Of course, he was very familiar with this figure. Because this figure is none other than Fire Fist Ace. If nothing else, the ruins should have been caused by Ace and Blackbeard. Didn't you expect things to become so interesting? Everything is different from the original trajectory. After reading the newspaper, Chen Fang threw it aside. The moment the newspaper hit the ground, one hand caught it, and many hands began to pass it around. Chen Fang didn't pay much attention to this scene. He continued to lie on his recliner. His recliner had been upgraded and even the wind and snow couldn't get in. Robin quickly got the newspaper and started reading it. After seeing the most obvious section of the newspaper, she raised her head and glanced at the recliner over there. If she guessed correctly, this matter had something to do with that person. But the most relevant person was undoubtedly another person. Robin immediately looked at the cabin and shouted, "Vivi, today's newspaper has arrived, and it contains news that you are interested in." "Has the newspaper arrived? I'll be out right away." Vivi's response sounded. 3 minutes later, Vivi's figure hurriedly ran out of the cabin. "Where is the newspaper? What news is it?" she asked eagerly. "The newspaper is here, and the news is on the most obvious page." Robin handed the newspaper in his hand to Vivi. Vivi immediately caught the newspaper and began to read it. Seeing what was in the newspaper, her face became more and more ugly. Finally, tears fell from her eyes. "If we don't hurry up, Crocodile, Alabasta." Vivi was already choking. At this time, Robin's comforting voice sounded. "It's okay, there's still a chance. At least Crocodile hasn't completely succeeded yet. As long as we reach the palace as quickly as possible and reveal Crocodile's true identity, all problems will be solved. You don't need to do anything about the next thing. I know, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to catch up. If I can't catch up, Alabasta will be completely destroyed." Vivi looked at Robin with tears in her eyes. "Vivi, what happened?" Nami walked up to Vivi and helped her wipe away her tears. "It's okay, we're all here. No matter what happens, we will help you." After Vivi heard what Nami said, she threw herself into Nami's arms. "Be good, stop crying. If you have anything to say, just tell her and we will help you." Nami gently stroked Vivi's back and comforted her in a low voice. Vivi handed the newspaper in her hand to Nami and sobbed softly. "It's what I said before. Baroque Studio and others continue to spread rumors, and now almost all citizens believe this rumor. Nami, I have to return to Alabasta as soon as possible. Please, please help me. Who wants you to help me? I can do whatever I want. Nami took the newspaper and saw the 3 characters, dancing fan, at a glance, so she instantly understood what Vivi meant. It is indeed a Baroque studio. Is this the so-called 7 warlords of the sea? Can the 7 warlords of the sea do whatever they want? Nami clenched her fists. Don't worry, Vivi, I will definitely help you. Nami said decisively. The Vivi in front of her is her former self. No one could help her before, but now she can help Vivi. Helping Vivi is equivalent to helping her former self. Soon, Luffy and others came out of the cabin. They also knew these things through Nami and Vivi's narration. Among them, Sanji was particularly angry. He vowed that he would help Vivi defeat Crocodile. Zoro looked at the indignant and angry Sanji, with disdain written all over his face. His eyebrows were really funny. Can that guy beat the 7 warlords of the sea? Each of the 7 warlords of the sea is very strong. Their strength may not be lower than that of Hawkeye, and Hawkeye's strength makes Zoro a little desperate now. As for that man's strength, he couldn't even feel despair. Zoro turned his head and looked at the recliner over there. Soon, after everyone voted, they unanimously agreed to speed up to Alabasta. At this time, Chen Fang's voice sounded. It's no problem to go to Alabasta, but before that, I need to find a ship's doctor. It will be very troublesome if there is no ship's doctor. Ship doctor, we really need a ship doctor. Luffy nodded seriously. Yes, we do need a ship's doctor. Usopp agreed. But Usopp has his own ideas about the ship's doctor. If the ship's doctor joins, the number of their pirate group can be increased again. I believe it will soon reach 8,000 people. And more importantly, as a doctor, he must be very weak. After the ship doctor joins, he will not be the weakest. At this time, Nami looked at Chen Fang. The deputy captain's medical skills are also very strong, as can be seen from the medicine he gave her before, so do they really need a new ship's doctor? But soon, Nami started laughing. How could the deputy captain be their doctor? It was too much to ask the deputy captain to do such a thing. What's more, this was proposed by the deputy captain himself, which showed that her idea was impossible, and the ship's doctor still needed to be found after all. Soon, the search for the ship's doctor was decided. But at this time, Luffy asked a very important question. Vice Captain, where should we find the ship's doctor? After hearing Luffy's question, everyone looked at Chen Fang. Chen Fang saw everyone looking at him and answered. I already have a candidate, and that candidate is very close to here. After taking him with us, we will go to Alabasta as quickly as possible. After getting the answer, Luffy nodded. Sure enough, there was another candidate for the deputy captain. However, he was still very satisfied with the person chosen by the deputy captain. Nami is a very good navigator, and Sanji is also a very good cook. Zoro looked at Chen Fang and shrugged. Is there anyone else who could be the deputy captain? He didn't care about this, as long as there was no one as annoying as curly eyebrows. After Sanji heard this, he felt a little unhappy for no reason, because he was also chosen by Shinigami. Nami felt her heart skip a beat at this moment. She was really looking forward to who the unlucky child chosen by Shinigami would be. Robin smiled and looked at Chen Fang. She was also curious about who the ship's doctor was that Shinigami chose. If Shinigami valued him, his medical skills should be good. After all, Shinigami still has good taste. Robin turned to look at Nami and Sanji. These 2 guys who are valued by Shinigami are very strong in their fields, but their combat power is a bit lacking, but with Shinigami here, their combat power is secondary. After finalizing the search for the ship's doctor, the voyage continued. At this time, in the Marine headquarters, Sengoku was looking at the latest information. Next to him, there were 2 people, they were Garp and Crane. After reading the information, Sengoku raised his head and looked at Garp and he. Lieutenant General he had already finished reading the information, and Garp had already finished eating the senbei. After finishing the senbei, Garp opened another pack of senbei and continued eating. Sengoku snatched the senbei from Garp's hand with an angry look on his face. Garp, can you be more serious? Can you eat it later? Okay, let's eat it later. While Garp was talking, his eyes were always watching the senbei that Sengoku grabbed. In that case, let's discuss business. Warring States directly threw the bag of senbei far away. Garp looked at the senbei in the distance and sighed. It was too far and he couldn't reach it now. According to the latest information, Hawkeye and Crocodile among the 7 warlords of the sea have joined forces. Their alliance should be to target Shinigami. I wonder what you two think about this. What should we Marine do? Warring States looked at Lieutenant General He. He didn't bother to ask about Garp. Anyway, even if he didn't ask, the guy would still say what he wanted to say. It would be best if they could both lose. These 7 warlords of the sea have gone too far recently. He expressed his opinion. Then you mean, we Marine won't be involved in this matter? Sengoku looked at He. Yes, and we have no way to stop it now. At this time, Garp's voice sounded. Instead of taking care of those 3 guys, why not take care of Ace and that Blackbeard? Sengoku turned to look at Garp. I thought you didn't know this information. That's a person from a small town. How could I not know that? Garp's tone was a little strange. Garp is right. What we need to control more is these 2 people. Their battle has caused too much damage. He also agreed with Garp. Then who do you think is better to send? Sengoku stared at Garp closely. Let Porosalino go, he is the most suitable. Garp lowered his head and said this slowly. This suggestion is very good, then let him go. Warring States nodded and looked away. After finishing this matter, they began to discuss other pirate issues again. The flying snow is still falling all over the sky, and the heavy snow has no intention of stopping. When will we arrive at the ship's doctor's location? I already hate the snow. Luffy muttered dissatisfiedly. The novelty caused by the snow soon dissipated, and the cold weather now made the group on the Flying Melly very sad. This kind of weather made them all trapped in the cabin, afraid to come out, and the cabin was so boring that Luffy even started punching him with his left fist and right fist. On the lounge chair outside, Chen Fang opened his eyes and looked forward. A very huge, castle-like ship appeared in Chen Fang's sight. Seeing this familiar castle ship, Chen Fang slowly stood up and came to the bow. The Fatian melee and the huge castle ship gradually approached, and a huge figure also jumped off the castle ship. Chen Fang looked at the jumping figure and drew his sword out of its sheath. The figure was chopped into pieces in midair in an instant. At the same time, the huge castle ship in front of him was shattered, and the broken pieces were floating in the air. Chen Fang sheathed the sword, and with a thought, the fragments quickly floated into the distance, and then fell downwards. After solving this small episode, Chen Fang turned around and walked towards his recliner. Half an hour after the interlude ended, the Flying Melly docked. Everyone on the boat walked out of the cabin one after another. Is there a ship's doctor on this island? Luffy looked around curiously. Chen Fang turned his head and glanced at everyone on the deck. Just wait here, I'll bring the ship's doctor back. After saying this, Chen Fang jumped off the boat and walked towards the island. Vice Captain, I want to go with you too. Luffy shouted and chased Chen Fang. Chen Fang turned his head and glanced at Luffy who was following him, but said nothing. Everyone left on the boat looked at each other. The vice captain and Luffy went to find the ship's doctor, so what should we do now? Usopp asked first. As long as you're around here, you can do whatever you want. Robin smiled and said. Zoro glanced at everyone and jumped off the boat. Zoro, what are you doing? Usopp asked hurriedly. Practice your sword skills. After saying these words, Zoro walked towards the island without looking back. If that's the case, then I'll go practice too. Usopp clenched his fists and jumped off the boat. Sanji looked at Zoro's back and immediately followed him. He would not fall behind others, let alone that green algae head. 10 minutes later, Chen Fang came to a village and walked up to a villager. Hello, in which direction does the doctor you call the witch live? Why are you looking for that guy? Do you want to find that guy for treatment? The villagers had expressions of confusion and anger on their faces. I have something to find her, could you please give me some directions? Chen Fang said again. The villagers looked at Chen Fang carefully and noticed the knife hanging on his waist. Could this guy be looking for revenge against the witch? Forget it, it has nothing to do with him anyway. The villagers immediately pointed in one direction. Do you see that mountain over there? The witch's castle is on that mountain. You can find him there. Chen Fang followed the direction of his finger and saw a mountain. After confirming the direction, he expressed his gratitude to the villagers. Luffy looked at the mountain and thought to himself. It turns out that the doctor the deputy captain was looking for was on that mountain. Is the ship's doctor called a witch? It's really interesting. Suddenly, Luffy found himself floating up. This feeling was exactly the same as in Rog Town before, so he immediately turned his head to look at Chen Fang. Chen Fang also flew up at this time, and quickly headed towards the mountain. At this time, there was a small house in another place. Although the house was small, it was still very warm inside. Well, his disease has been cured, a fashionably dressed elderly woman said to the middle-aged man in front of her. Is this cured? The middle-aged man looked at his child and felt a little unbelievable. Of course it's been cured, the fashionable older woman said in a very serious tone. That's the reward. I seem to be running out of toilet paper and garbage bags. Also, give me all the wine and food. Also, I will accept 50% of the assets of this store. After hearing these words, the middle-aged man was in disbelief. At this time, the fashionable elderly woman turned to look at a reindeer next to her. Chopper, pack your things and take them back. Wait a minute, isn't this too much? You actually want half of your property. The middle-aged man obviously couldn't accept such conditions. The people watching were also very angry. Boss, don't be blackmailed by him, she is committing fraud. That's definitely the case, yes. Why did you almost die? You were just lying on the ground crying, right? That's right, it's not as serious as you say. It's just pretending to be a doctor. Finally, everyone shouted in unison. Don't take advantage of other people's weaknesses, you stinky witch. After hearing what these people said, the reindeer next to the fashionable elderly woman became very angry. He stared at those people with human eyes and grinned. Stop, Chopper, the fashionable older woman said to stop her reindeer. She turned to look at everyone. It's just the crazy words of brats. Just when everyone was very angry, a voice sounded. Old lady, thank you, I feel much better now. The little girl lying down barely showed a smile on her face. The fashionable older woman turned to look at the little girl and laughed. Gee, I got a nice tip. I'll give you a 49% discount. After saying this, the fashionable older woman left directly. After the middle-aged man heard this sentence, he was a little stunned. He immediately turned around, bowed and said, Thank you, I will definitely pay. After reaching the door, the fashionable elderly woman turned her head and looked at the child. Kid, don't forget the happiness you have now. After saying this, she left gracefully. 30 minutes later, Chen Fang arrived in front of a castle. Looking at this familiar castle, Chen Fang knew that he had come to the right place, but unfortunately, there was no one in the castle yet. Is this where the witch lives? Luffy looked around curiously. Chen Fang was not polite at all. He opened the door and walked in. He planned to wait here. Is this really okay for us, Vice Captain? Although Luffy was very confused and said it didn't seem appropriate, he walked in directly. Chen Fang walked into the castle and found a chair to sit down, while Luffy started to look around. An hour later, one person and one deer appeared in front of the castle. The fashionable elderly woman looked at the opened castle door with a look of dissatisfaction on her face. Does a thief dare to break into my house? He is really brave. Chopper, go throw those thieves out. She ordered the reindeer in front of her. After hearing the instructions, the reindeer nodded and instantly transformed into a deer humanoid creature that was 3 to 4 meters tall. The deer humanoid creature slowly walked towards the castle, and very deep footprints appeared behind it. At this time, a figure walked out of the castle, with a knife on his waist. Yes, this figure is Chen Fang. Chen Fang walked out of the gate of the castle and looked at the deer humanoid creature and fashionable women in front of him. Hello, Dr. Kureha, my name is Chen Fang, you can also call me Shinigami. So you are Shinigami, what are you doing here? Kureha narrowed her eyes and looked at Chen Fang. Looking at Kureha's expression, Chen Fang waved his hand. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I came to you because I have something to discuss. I don't think Shinigami and I have anything to talk about. Chopper, see you off. Kureha didn't want to have anything to do with this person. He didn't want to deal with Marine and world government. The deer humanoid creature continued to walk forward. It wanted to complete its task and see off the guests. After hearing this, Chen Fang shook his head. Sure enough, it was more appropriate to use violence when communicating with others. Chen Fang's body instantly surged with powerful aura, and the deer humanoid creature's pupils dilated and it fell to the ground. After Kureha saw this situation, a strong aura appeared on her body, and she was constantly resisting the oppressive aura. "What do you want to do?" Kureha asked. "I just want to make a deal with you." Chen Fang maintained his momentum and said calmly. "What deal do you want to make?" When Chen Fang heard this, he knew that Kureha had seriously considered the deal, so he took out something from his body and threw it towards Kureha. When the thing was thrown over, the aura on his body suddenly disappeared. Kureha took the thing thrown by Chen Fang, opened it and started to look at it. Luffy looked at the scene in front of him with some confusion. There seems to be some unharmony between the deputy captain and the elderly woman. Could that person really be the ship's doctor chosen by the deputy captain? But, doesn't it look a little old? Luffy was actually a little dissatisfied. If the deputy captain really wanted this person to be the ship's doctor, he would definitely refuse. After reading what was on it, Kureha still couldn't hide the shock in her eyes and looked up at Shinigami opposite. Where do these things come from? Has the medical technology in this world advanced to this point? Kureha's tone was a little excited and a little disappointed. After seeing this, the deal is concluded. Chen Fang's voice sounded again. "You have been talking about a deal just now. I got this thing, so what do you want to get from me?" Kureha looked closely at the Shinigami in front of her. "I want this." Chen Fang pointed at the fainted deer humanoid. "Chopper, what do you want this child for?" Kureha looked at Chen Fang in confusion, her heart rising with vigilance. "I need a doctor." Chen Fang got straight to the point. "Do you need a doctor? Then why do you want a deer? If you want a doctor, wouldn't it be more appropriate to find someone else?" Kureha obviously did not want to hand over the deer humanoid creature to Chen Fang. "You have no right to refuse." Chen Fang put his hand on the handle of the knife. "You guy." The anger in Kureha's heart suddenly rose. Soon, the anger in her heart subsided and she looked at Chen Fang. "Are you sure you won't hurt Chopper? Do I need to hurt it? I just need a doctor." "Okay, you can take it with you. Happy trading." The two struck a deal. But at this time, Luffy was very confused. He couldn't understand the current situation at all. Why did the first officer want a deer to be their ship's doctor? And this one doesn't look like a deer either. Isn't this obviously a deer man who looks like a deer? Can this really be a ship doctor? At this time, Chen Fang's voice sounded again. "Wake up Chopper, Luffy, he needs to know about the deal. I don't need a dead ship's doctor." "Ah, who is Chopper?" Luffy was a little confused. Soon, he realized that it seemed that the deer man here only needed to be woken up. After seeing Luffy start to wake up Chopper, Tatsufeng turned his attention to Kureha. "The next explanation is left to you. I hope you can find a better explanation." "Don't worry, I know it well." Kureha waved her hand, she knew what to do. 10 minutes later, Chopper, a deer humanoid creature, was flying in the air in confusion. It looked at the two figures in front of it, its mind a little confused. He recalled what happened a few minutes ago. When he was preparing to see off guests, he suddenly fainted and was woken up by the Straw Hat Boy in front of him. After being woken up, he originally wanted to continue delivering classes, but was stopped by Dr. Dolly. He was very confused about this. Soon, he heard a piece of news that shocked him even more. Dr. Dolly asked him not to see off the guests. But this was not what shocked him the most. The most shocking thing is that Dr. Dory made a deal with the guy named Shinigami in front of her. And the traded item was him. He was sold by Dr. Dory. This matter is already a fact. At the beginning, of course he refused this matter. He couldn't understand it at all. Even when he was awake, he was still seeing guests off. Why did everything change when I woke up? However, in the end he chose to accept it. Because Dr. Dory told him that he was not sold, but Dory wanted him to learn some medical skills from the Shinigami deputy leader. Chopper, who was originally a little skeptical, was shocked by a book thrown by the man named Shinigami. The contents of the book were actually helpful to his research on Rambo Maru. Only then did he want to believe that this Shinigami vice captain could really help him improve his medical skills. At this time, Luffy turned to look at the reindeer behind him, with surprise in his eyes. Such a large deer humanoid turned into such a small moose. Luffy said that he had never seen it before. What shocked him even more was that this reindeer could speak human language. Not only that, it also had medical skills. Their ship's doctor turned out to be a deer. Who would dare to believe this? After feeling the gaze of the Straw Hat Boy Luffy, Chopper smiled and waved. When Luffy saw the reindeer's smile, he also showed a big-toothed smile. The reindeer could be used as a food reserve, but would it be bad to eat the ship's doctor? Seeing Luffy's eyes gradually becoming strange, Chopper felt a chill in his heart. What on earth is this Straw Hat Boy thinking about? In the end, Luffy made a sad face, as if the ship's doctor really couldn't eat, and he expressed great regret for this. Chopper, on the other hand, breathed a sigh of relief, as the Straw Hat Boy finally no longer looked at him with that terrifying look. After another 10 minutes of flight, Chen Fang and the others returned to the Fatian Melee. Nami and Vivi immediately noticed the return of Chen Fang and the others. They looked at Chen Fang and Luffy curiously and kept looking at them. He and the others were very interested in what kind of person the ship's doctor was. Soon, they noticed the presence of a reindeer behind Luffy and Tatsuka's. What a cute reindeer, Deputy Leader, did you bring this back from hunting? Nami asked excitedly. Obviously, she still liked the reindeer in front of her very much. This reindeer is indeed very cute. Vivi was also very happy. Girls seemed to have a hard time resisting this furry creature. At this time, Chen Fang opened his mouth and said, "This is our ship's doctor. His name is Chopper. Please introduce yourselves to each other." "No, it's a lie, right? This reindeer is our ship's doctor." Nami's eyes widened and she looked at Chen Fang in disbelief. "Ship doctor, deputy captain, are you serious?" Vivi couldn't believe this at all. Chen Fang ignored Vivi and Nami and turned to look at Chopper. "Chopper, please introduce yourself." "Okay, Mr. Vice Captain." Chopper nodded seriously. He turned to look at Vivi and Nami. "Hello, my name is Chopper. As you can see, I am a reindeer, and I will be the ship's doctor on the Flying Melee from now on. Please give me your advice." After Chopper introduced himself, he bowed like a human. The reindeer spoke. "Vivi, did you hear it?" The reindeer spoke. Nami immediately turned to look at Vivi to confirm. "I heard it too, Nami," the reindeer really spoke. Vivi also turned to look at Nami. Luffy looked at the two people in front of him and laughed. Aren't they looking the same now as he did before? He was also shocked before. But after he accepted it, he felt that Nami and Vivi were making a fuss. Isn't he just a talking reindeer? Nothing to be shocked about. Hachi, you will be our ship's doctor from now on. You two should get along well with each other in the future. Luffy said this in a captain's tone. After hearing what Luffy said, Nami rolled her eyes at Luffy. Was she despised by this stupid captain? Anyone can be despised, but she can't stand his, okay. Nami did not trust the smiling reindeer ship doctor in front of her. Can this reindeer really know how to heal? Is it really qualified for the job of ship doctor? Nami expressed extreme doubts about this, but in the end she did not say any words of doubt or rejection. The ship's doctor was brought back by the deputy captain, and Luffy did not object, so they had no right to object. Although it was very difficult to accept, they had to accept it in the end. They had to accept that the reindeer could talk, and they had to accept that the talking reindeer was their new ship's doctor. Nami smiled reluctantly and shook hands with the reindeer doctor in front of her. No, it was her hand that shook the reindeer doctor's hoof. After Nami, Vivi was the second person to shake hands with the reindeer ship doctor. Soon, Robin also walked out of the cabin. She already knew about the reindeer ship's doctor. She accepted the fact that reindeer could talk and serve as ship's doctors very quickly, to the point where Nami and Vivi were shocked. Robin, why aren't you surprised that reindeer can talk? Nami found it hard to accept. It's hard to accept, so why don't you accept it? Don't you still have to accept it? Robin smiled. That seems to be the case. Nami quickly thought about it and sighed helplessly. I don't know what other people's expressions will be when they know the news. Vivi also sighed at the side. Speaking of this, I'm very curious. Robin's face showed an expression of interest. She had already notified the 3 people in training according to Chen Fang's instructions. I'm also very curious. It should be very pleasant to see their shocked and disbelieving expressions. A malicious smile appeared on Nami's face, and she also wanted to see a joke. That being said, I'm looking forward to it too. Vivi also laughed. At this time, the three people training on the island in the ice and snow walked side by side towards the shore. Did the vice captain bring the ship's doctor back so quickly? I'm really curious, what kind of person would the ship's doctor be? Usopp's face was full of curiosity. It would be great if the ship's doctor was a beautiful woman, then I would definitely go to her for treatment every day. Sanji was imagining. I think the ship's doctor may be a burly man, or a thin man. Zoro's voice rang in the ears of the two of them. Ah, is that so? The two descriptions of Zoro instantly appeared in Usopp's head, and he was a little disappointed. Green algae head, what are you talking about? The ship's doctor must be a beautiful girl. Sanji turned to look at Zoro with a very dissatisfied tone. Then who knows? Zoro raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. You guys, do you want to fight alone? Sanji clenched his fists. Oh, you want it too? Zoro put his hand on the handle of the knife. There was a tense situation between the two, and the atmosphere became anxious. At this time, Usopp, standing in the middle, began to persuade. Okay, stop arguing. You can see it when you get back. What's the point of arguing now? Vivi is still waiting for us to go back to save Alabasta, so don't waste time. After listening to Usopp's words, the two stopped confronting each other, turned their heads, and walked forward. When Usopp saw this, he sighed. These two people really made him worried. They had to argue every time and even fight after the argument. Hey, wait for me. Looking at the two people walking further and further away, Usopp immediately chased after them. Soon, they returned to the ship, looked at Luffy 3 times, and spoke first. Luffy, where is our ship's doctor? It's here, didn't you see it? Luffy smiled and pointed at a creature beside him. Hey, Luffy can also joke. I'm talking about the ship's doctor, not tonight's food. Sanji was a little helpless about this. But he is our transfer artist. He is not the food for the night. The ship's doctor cannot eat it. Luffy said seriously. Seeing Luffy's serious expression, Sanji was a little surprised, but before he could speak again, the creature in front of him spoke. Hello, I am the new ship's doctor. My name is Chopper. As you can see, I am a reindeer, but I am not food. It's a lie, reindeer can talk. Sanji was shocked. No, the reindeer actually spoke. Isn't this a monster? Usopp shrank behind Zoro in fear. At this time, Zoro had already put his hand on the handle of the knife. This was the first time he had seen a talking reindeer. 5 minutes later, the three finally believed that the reindeer could talk and finally accepted that the reindeer was their ship's doctor. Fortunately, the ship's doctor is just a reindeer, not a burly man. Sanji felt a little lucky in his heart. For him, if the ship's doctor was a burly man, it would probably be more difficult to accept. So you are a reindeer who ate a devil fruit. You are really powerful. Usopp smiled and carefully touched the horns on Chopper's head. Yes, that's it. I became like this after eating a devil fruit. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to speak. Chopper looked at everyone with a smile on his face. It's quite interesting to have a reindeer as a ship's doctor. Zoro removed his hand from the handle of the knife and leaned on the ship's pole. After the Zoro trio came back, the Flying Melly set sail again. At this time, on a pirate ship in New World, 2 men were looking at the wanted posters in their hands. One of these men has iconic red hair. He is the red-haired Shanks from the 4 Emperors of New World. There is another man with the iconic long nose. He is a member of the 4 Emperors pirate group. His name is Jesus Bu. Shanks was looking at a wanted poster for the Straw Hat Boy. Looking at the wanted poster, he smiled. That guy Luffy finally started to enter the Grand Line. It's really good. That guy also went to sea to become a pirate. Jesus looked at the wanted notice in his hand with a smile on his face. The person on the wanted list is his son, Usopp. Has this kid also gone to sea? But the bounty seems a bit low. Next time I see a wanted poster, I hope your kid's bounty will be higher. After reading the wanted poster for Straw Hat Boy Luffy, Shanks quickly looked at the rest of the wanted posters. Soon, he also saw the iconic long nose. He turned his head and looked at Jesus Bu with a smile. Jesus Bu, I didn't expect that your son would also join Luffy's pirate group. What a coincidence. It's a coincidence, Captain. I didn't expect that boy of mine to join Luffy's pirate group, but it's pretty good, isn't it? Jesus responded with a smile. It's really good. Shanks smiled and nodded. Soon, he saw the last wanted notice, which had an indifferent person on it. Looking at this indifferent person, Shanks' expression became serious. Why on earth did this guy join Luffy's pirate group? With this guy's strength, it stands to reason that he would look down on Luffy and the others. I'm also very confused about this, Captain. Jesus' voice sounded again. The bounty for that guy is too high, and Hawkeye, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, is no match for him. I really want to defeat him. Jesus looked at Chen Fang's wanted notice with a serious expression. Listening to what you said, are you worried about that boy Usopp, Jesus? Shanks smiled and turned to look at Jesus. I'm really worried. That guy's reputation isn't very good. After all, his name is Shinigami. Don't worry, there's no point worrying. That guy would have done it already if he wanted to, right? Shanks slowly lay back and stared at the blue sky. Indeed, Captain, you were right. Jesus you also lay back and no longer looked at the wanted poster. Let's wait for them here in New World. I believe they will be here soon. Shanks was already lying down on the deck, and the cool wind blew on his face. I haven't seen Usopp for a long time. It seems good to see him in New World. Jesus was also blowing the wind. The warm sunshine continues to shine towards the sea, and the cool sea breeze also keeps blowing. In the blue sea, the Fatian Mary is moving forward. Nami, come out quickly and see what's going on in front of you. Usopp shouted anxiously. What happened? Nami hurriedly ran out of the cabin. Look over there, Nami. Usopp immediately pointed in one direction after seeing Nami coming out. Nami looked in that direction suspiciously and saw a lot of steam. What happened in that place? We won't be in danger, right? Usopp's tone contained worry and fear. After hearing this, Nami laughed and opened Shikai to explain. We will not be in danger. It is a normal phenomenon at sea. The steam is just formed by submarine volcanoes and will not affect us at all. It turns out it won't affect us. It really scared me to death. Usopp breathed a sigh of relief, and the worry on his face slowly disappeared. At this time, on the other side of the steam, a pirate ship was advancing, and they rushed straight into the steam. What the hell is going on? Why can't we see it? A person on the pirate ship shouted in confusion. We don't know what happened. Then get out of this place quickly. I understand, I'll speed up immediately. The pirate ship in the steam began to accelerate forward, but because it could not see the front, the pirate ship eventually got into an accident. The Fatian Melee was still sailing normally. Chen Fang, who was lying on the deck chair, slowly opened his eyes and realized that something was about to happen. A minute later, a cry for help came from the sea. Help, who can help me? I can't swim. Chen Fang looked at the man in the sea asking for help and raised the corners of his mouth. This man was wearing a swan suit with special words on the back of the suit. And this familiar person is Mr. Tu, one of the senior agents of Baroque Studio, whose real name is Feng Clay. Feng Clay's cry for help also attracted the attention of everyone on the flying melee. Everyone, someone fell into the water there, let's go rescue him. Luffy turned to look at Nami, hoping that the navigator could rescue him. Nami nodded and prepared to turn the wheel. At this time, Chen Feng thought, and Mr. Tu was already floating in the sea. After Feng Clay saw himself floating up, he was very happy. He was finally not in the sea and no longer had to drown. But at this moment, his pupils shrank suddenly, his body and head separated instantly, and his body flew rapidly towards the flying Mary. Chen Feng, who was standing at the bow of the ship, gently touched Feng Clay's body. The ability to imitate the fruit appeared in his mind. After Chen Feng gained the ability, Feng Clay's body fell into the sea and slowly sank. See. Chen Feng turned around and returned to his recliner, while the others were already shocked. Luffy and others immediately ran to the side of the boat and looked toward the sea, but there was no trace of the body on the sea. They immediately turned to look at Chen Fang. Mr. Vice Captain, why did you kill that man? He was just a man who fell into the sea. Vivi's tone was very confused and puzzled, and there was also a question in her tone. That guy is a member of Baroque Studio, and his code name is Mr. Tu. I don't kill innocent people indiscriminately, and I keep my promises. Chen Fang's voice sounded. That guy is Mr. Tu, That's why the deputy captain will kill him. Vivi suddenly realized. So that's it, that guy is an enemy. Nami also nodded. Robin stared at Chen Fang with a solemn expression. Yes, the guy who was killed just now was indeed Mr. Two. In Baroque Studio, there were only 2 people better than him. It was the first time that Chopper saw the vice captain kill someone. He felt a little scared for such a decisive vice captain. He began to observe everyone's reaction, but soon he found that no one reacted at all. They didn't seem to care at all. Chopper poked Usopp next to him with his hand, and Usopp turned to look at Chopper in confusion. What's wrong, Chopper? Usopp, has the vice captain always been like this? Chopper asked in a low voice. Usopp smiled upon seeing this and replied. After all, the vice captain is a Shinigami, so killing is normal, and we are pirates, so killing is normal. Oh, so that's how it is. Chopper nodded as if he understood. It turns out that being a pirate involves killing people, so I seem to know what a pirate is. Chopper clenched his fists, knowing what he was going to do next. At this time, the collapse of the Straw Hats seems to be getting faster and faster. The episode ended again, and the Flying Melly continued sailing. 2 days later, the Fatian Melly docked. They had arrived in Arabistan in the Desert Kingdom. After several days of sailing, they finally saw land. Luffy couldn't wait to run towards the shore. He wanted to go to the town. Chen Fang saw this and did not stop him. He also walked towards the town. Next, he needed to rest in this town and replenish some fruits and vegetables. Vice Captain, what will happen to our ship? Nami asked a question that she was very concerned about. Chen Fang turned to look at Nami. Just take it with you on the boat. Huh, Nami was stunned. Not only Nami was stunned, but everyone else was stunned. What is the vice captain talking about? How can the ship take it away? They can't take it away either. There is a desert in front of them and there is no way to sail. In everyone's shock, the Fatian Melly floated up. The ship is flying. Usopp shouted in shock. You're lying, why did the ship fly? Chopper was also stunned and couldn't believe what was happening. But soon, Chopper suddenly thought of something. He seemed to have flown before. When he left Dr. Dory, he was flying to the shore. Everyone also looked at their vice captain immediately. Is this the ability of the vice captain? Is this the ability of the devil fruit? Are devil fruits so powerful? They were shocked to think that it could make people float, but now that such a heavy ship can float, this is completely unimaginable for them. Don't be stunned. Let's set off as quickly as possible. Isn't this what you have been shouting about before? Chen Fang's voice became farther and farther away. Everyone immediately reacted to this voice, and they jumped off the boat one after another and walked towards the town. At this time, Luffy had already arrived in the town. He looked at the town curiously. When Luffy looked at the town, someone was also observing Luffy. He not only looked with his eyes, but also took out a piece of paper from his hand and began to compare. 10 seconds later, the man who was staring nodded. He had confirmed that the person in front of him was the wanted criminal, so he immediately yelled. Everyone, come on. There is a wanted criminal here. Let's catch him together and then collect the reward. After Luffy heard this sentence, he was a little confused and looked around. Where is the wanted criminal? Why didn't I see it? Luffy whispered to himself. Soon, Luffy realized something was wrong, and the surrounding townspeople gathered around him. What do you want to do? Luffy asked doubtfully. What do we want to do? Of course we want to catch you, a wanted criminal, and collect the reward. A town resident laughed and answered Luffy's question. Oh, so the wanted criminal you are talking about is me. Luffy suddenly realized, he finally understood the current situation. Why are you talking so much to this wanted criminal? Just arrest him. Yes, that's right, just capture him and share the bounty with everyone. The townspeople rushed towards Luffy at the same time. After Luffy saw this scene, he immediately began to resist. He punched 2 townspeople away, but the townspeople still showed no fear and rushed towards Luffy. Luffy kept fighting back. He didn't want to be caught by these townspeople to collect the bounty. Suddenly, a powerful aura enveloped the area. To prove it, everyone instantly lost consciousness and fell towards the ground. Luffy looked at the fallen townspeople in confusion, then turned to look in one direction and saw a familiar figure. It turns out that the vice captain is here. Thank you very much, vice captain. Luffy showed a healthy smile. Chen Fang ignored Luffy and looked at the several wanted posters on the wall. Those wanted posters contained photos of all of them. The person who wants them is King Alabasta, and their crime is surrendering to the enemy and treason. And their leader is the Princess of Alabasta, Vivi. Looking at these wanted posters, Chen Fang felt helpless. Crocodile's trick was too clumsy. Soon, the rest of the people came to the town. They looked at the townspeople all over the ground with some confusion. Why did this guy fall asleep directly on the ground? Usopp was very puzzled, and he turned to look at Vivi. Vivi, is this the custom here? Do they usually sleep on the ground? Alabasta doesn't have this custom, and I don't know why they do it. Vivi shook her head, with confusion on her face. Everyone, I have good news for you. We are wanted again. Luffy ran to Nami and others excitedly. What does it mean to be wanted again? Nami rolled her eyes at Luffy. Can the captain speak? Yes, we are indeed wanted again, and our bounty has been increased. Luffy danced excitedly. Luffy, stop joking. We are here to buy supplies, not to play. Usopp also felt helpless. I'm not kidding, look over there, there is our wanted poster. Luffy pointed in one direction dissatisfied. Why is there our wanted notice here? What are you talking about? Nami looked in the direction Luffy pointed, and her words stopped abruptly. There was indeed a wanted poster for them in the direction Luffy pointed, and she had already seen her familiar face, as well as the familiar faces of the others. You're lying. I'm not a traitor to the enemy. Besides, no one will give me money even if I'm a traitor. Nami rubbed his head helplessly. Why would my father want me? Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Vivi looked at the reason for the wanted order on the wanted order with a look of disbelief on her face. Green algae head, now my bounty is no lower than yours. Sanji turned to look at Zoro with a look on his face. Who set the bounty on this wanted poster? Is this person a fool? He actually set my bounty to be the same as the one with curly eyebrows. Zoro was very dissatisfied that his bounty was the same as Sanji's. You guys, do you want to fight alone? Sanji's expression suddenly changed. You can try. Zoro didn't take it easy at all. Can you two stop it? This is not the time for a duel. Usopp immediately stopped between the two. Okay, let's start collecting supplies, and then march directly to the Alabasta Palace. After hearing Chen Fang's words, everyone began to do their own things. At this moment, Chen Fang suddenly felt something, and he immediately flew in this direction. 10 minutes later, Chen Fang climbed over a sand dune and looked down. There is a big battle going on below. The deep darkness and the fiery red flames are constantly colliding. And in the middle of the deep darkness and the fiery red flames, there were two figures. Looking at the battle below, Chen Fang was very satisfied. It seemed that he had solved the previous plot as quickly as possible, which really allowed him to catch up with this part of the plot. The battle between Fire Fist Ace and Blackbeard finally allowed him to catch up, and he decided to take both the dark fruit and the burning fruit. Chen Fang grasped the handle of the knife and rushed down with full momentum. A powerful momentum enveloped the darkness and flames below. The two people in the battle stopped instantly. They turned their heads and looked in one direction, where there was a figure rushing towards people. So powerful and domineering, who is that guy? Ace was a little confused. That guy looks like he's here to cause trouble. That guy's domineering power has enveloped both of us. Blackbeard laughed. It's really interesting. A third person actually appeared in the battle. So they worked together to resist the powerful pressure and the gravity that suddenly pressed on them. Soon, Chen Fang came to Blackbeard and Ace. He pulled out the knife in his hand. In addition to the domineering force, a large number of black weapons also enveloped Ace and Blackbeard. Hey, Ace, this guy looks familiar. Do you remember who he is? Blackbeard asked with a smile. This guy is Shinigami, the pirate hunter Shinigami who cut off one of Hawkeye's arms. Ace had already recognized Tatsufang, and he had a very deep impression of Tatsufang because of his brother Luffy. After Chen Fang came closer, he rushed towards Blackbeard without saying a word. He wanted to try the ability of the dark fruit first. He was very curious about this fruit. Blackbeard used the diamond claws on his hands to block Chen Fang's slash. After blocking the attack, Blackbeard laughed. This Shinigami is not as strong as he imagined. At the moment when Blackbeard took it lightly, the bloodthirsty break in Chen Fang's hand struck towards Blackbeard's chest. The sound of metal cutting immediately sounded, and Blackbeard's black chest was cut open by Bloodthirsty. Not only that, Blackbeard's face became ferocious because of the severe pain. This is also your devil fruit ability. This guy actually has 2 devil fruit abilities. It's really amazing, Shinigami. Blackbeard cried and laughed at the same time. He was not angry at all because he was cut. Instead, he was very happy to see that Shinigami also had the ability of 2 devil fruits. Since Shinigami can also have 2 devil fruit abilities, he will definitely have them in the future. Originally, he was just a guess, but this guess was actually verified by the Shinigami in front of him. At this time, Chen Fang's figure slowly disappeared in front of Blackbeard, as if the Chen Fang in front of him was illusory. Seeing this scene, Blackbeard's pupils shrank, and suddenly, he immediately dodged to the side. At this moment, a long knife penetrated his arm. Chapter 51. Blackbeard's face showed an expression of extreme pain and ferocity. The long knife really hurt him, and the ability of the dark fruit did not take effect. He immediately fought hard to attack the Shinigami beside him, but at this time, the diamond claws on his hands penetrated directly through Shinigami's body, but there was no joy at all on his face, and this figure was also fake. Blackbeard's body suddenly leaned forward, and he was kicked on the back. Under the huge force of this kick, he flew out directly. Chen Fang looked at Blackbeard flying out, casually shook off the blood on the knife, and rushed over again. At this time, a huge darkness enveloped Chen Fang. This was Blackbeard's counterattack. Chen Fang waved the knife in his hand with his backhand, and the black knife light cut through the darkness. He also rushed out of the darkness in an instant and came to in front of Blackbeard. When Blackbeard saw this, he had already prepared to attack. He quickly swiped away with his diamond claws and took Chen Fang's head directly. Chen Fang's long sword blocked the attack of the diamond claw, and turned sideways again to dodge the attack of another diamond claw. Suddenly, Blackbeard felt his body sink. At the same time, he was kicked in the stomach again. Not only that, a long knife was getting closer and closer to his eyes. Blackbeard spat out a mouthful of blood, clasped his arms together, blocked the long knife attack, and quickly retreated with the help of this power. After retreating far enough, Blackbeard spit out the blood in his mouth and stared at the Shinigami in front of him. Now that he was injured, he suddenly realized that he seemed to rely too much on the ability of the devil fruit. Now he does not pay as much attention to physical skills as before. He had been injured by physical skills just now, and the 2 consecutive kicks still caused him a lot of injuries. He turned around and glanced at his left arm, which was still bleeding, with a ferocious smile on his face. Shinigami, after all this time, you are still the first person to hurt me. Are you the first person to get hurt? I also want to be the first person to kill you. Chen Fang's voice sounded behind Blackbeard. After Blackbeard heard this voice, his pupils shrank suddenly. Could it be that the Shinigami he was looking at just now was also fake? But he didn't dare to think too much and immediately dodged. A long knife passed him by, but he didn't dodge the kick from behind. Blackbeard flew out and was hit by a large number of black sword lights. After seeing this, he quickly used his fruit power and domineering to fight back. On the other side, Ace is also facing the endless black sword light. In front of him, there is a Shinigami figure, but Ace cannot tell whether the Shinigami figure is real or fake. Looking at the Shinigami in front of him, Ace had a hunch in his heart. If he regarded the Shinigami in front of him as fake, he would definitely pay a serious price. Blackbeard shouted loudly after resisting a large number of black sword lights. Shinigami, don't think that just because you hurt me, you can kill me. Now it's time to take action. At this time, Blackbeard was so arrogant, and the arrogance in his words made people think that he would definitely be serious next. After Chen Fang heard this sentence, he felt nothing. If he was not serious, he would die here. The moment Blackbeard finished speaking, the place suddenly became darker. Under the darkness, a sense of nihilistic fear arose. Chen Fang clenched the knife in his hand. Is this the more powerful power of the dark fruit? It looked very good. He quickly waved the knife in his hand to cut through the darkness. At the same time, fierce flames also appeared in the darkness, and Ace was also using his ability. The fiery red flames enveloped Blackbeard and Chen Fang equally, without any distinction. Haha, Ace, you actually want to deal with both of us at the same time. Blackbeard laughed loudly. If that's the case, then I'll help you. Most of the deep darkness shrouded Ace, while the other part came towards Chen Fang. Just when the darkness and the flames collided, white smoke appeared. The smoke surrounded the darkness and the flames, and continued to erode the darkness and the flames. After Blackbeard discovered the new smoke, his face was shocked, and his attack speed had slowed down. Impossible, how is it possible? How could this guy have the ability of the third devil fruit? How did he do it? And how could he have this smoke ability? Blackbeard muttered to himself in disbelief. How could this guy have so many devil fruit abilities? Why? Ace looked at the situation in front of him in confusion. But no matter how shocked they were, the erosion of the smoke was real. Soon, they discovered that the smoke had come to them. After discovering this situation, Ace and Blackbeard quickly began to clear the smoke in front of them. They could not let the other party's ability get close to themselves. But just when they wanted to clear the smoke in front of them, the smoke suddenly exploded, and the powerful explosion swept the two of them instantly. Chen Fang immediately rushed into the explosion with a knife. 10 seconds later, the smoke slowly dissipated, the darkness and flames also disappeared, and the yellow sand in the sky appeared in front of the three people again. At this time, Blackbeard looked at his broken arm and laughed. As expected of Shinigami, the strength is truly worthy of the name. Ace on the other side was breathing heavily, with a huge gash opening in his chest. Not only that, but there were 3 extremely deep wounds on his abdomen. The wound on Ace's chest was caused by Chen Fang, but his abdomen was accidentally attacked by Blackbeard. And Blackbeard's arm was also chopped off by Chen Fang during a sneak attack on Ace. I won't play with you anymore. I have other things to do. I'm leaving now. You can continue playing. After Blackbeard finished speaking, he flew away into the distance. But how could Chen Fang allow him to leave? With a thought in his mind, he swung his sword and slashed. Blackbeard immediately felt the strong gravity, and a large number of black sword lights appeared in front of him. But at this time, Blackbeard did not panic at all. Endless darkness spurted out from his severed arm, instantly covering the entire area and sweeping towards Ace and Chen Fang. Chen Fang slashed with his sword, and Ace also punched out flaming red flames. 3 seconds later, the endless darkness was completely destroyed and devoured by Ace and Chen Fang, but Blackbeard's figure had also disappeared. Blackbeard used one arm to escape smoothly. Seeing Blackbeard escaping, Ace's eyes showed disappointment and he clenched his fists. At this time, Chen Fang turned to look at the seriously injured Ace and rushed over with a knife. 5 minutes later, Chen Fang sheathed his sword. In front of him, Ace's body lay. He stretched out his hand and touched Ace's body. The ability to burn the fruit instantly appeared in his mind. After realizing the ability of the burning fruit, Chen Fang turned around and flew towards the town. 10 minutes later, Chen Fang returned to the town. Looking at the corpses of the townspeople still lying underground, he shook his head and returned to the deck chair on the Fatian Melee to lie down. Half an hour later, Luffy and others returned to the ship. They had already bought supplies. Luffy walked up to everyone and said with a smile, "Everyone, I just ate a strange powder. It tastes really bad. Do you want to try it?" After finishing speaking, Luffy took out a bag of powder from behind and handed it to everyone. Vivi was a little shocked when she looked at this powder, because this powder is dancing powder, one of the real culprits that caused civil strife in this country. And, more importantly, this thing seems inedible. Vivi glanced at the straw hat boy in front of her strangely. Does this guy really eat everything? Does he have no taboos at all? But the kind-hearted Vivi still started to explain to the straw hat boy that this thing cannot be eaten, and also explained the function of this thing. After learning about the function of this thing, Luffy became even more excited. He thought that this was a powder that would make him dance, so he ate the last of the dancing powder. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them in astonishment. They felt the impact, but not that shocked. The earlier people join, the duller their experience of the scene in front of them will be. But this scene was a critical blow to our Chopper. This straw hat boy who calls himself the captain is really a human being. How did he do it? Luffy's behavior had a huge impact on Chopper's young mind. It turns out that a person who looks normal may also have a problem with his brain. Soon, the impact caused by Luffy was over, and they were about to set sail. Next, they needed to go to Alabasta's palace and defeat Crocodile and Baroque studio. A flying Fatian melee headed towards the desert. Under the ship, there was a group of people. They walked towards the yellow sand in the sky without any hesitation. After Chen Fang and others left, the residents of the town slowly got up from the ground. The group of scary guys finally left, and they could finally stand up. At this time, there was a Gobi desert in the yellow sand in the sky. Blackbeard was sitting on a rock. He looked at his missing left arm with a look of resentment on his face. Shinigami, you actually made me lose my left arm. I will definitely avenge this. As long as I complete my goal, I will definitely kill you with my own hands, and then take all your fruit abilities as my own. After finishing talking to himself, Blackbeard jumped off the rock and walked into the boundless desert. In another desert, a figure slowly woke up. He looked at his injuries, took a short rest, and walked in one direction. One day later, the blazing sun was roasting the earth. The earth was roasting until it was sizzling, and the people below were also roasted until they were squeaking and greasy. When will we arrive at Alabasta's palace? The desert is really huge. Luffy's complaint rang in everyone's ears. Luffy, you'd better say less, that way you won't be so tired. Usopp advised. I'm so thirsty, I want to drink water. Luffy immediately jumped onto the Flying Mary and began to drink the sweet water. After drinking the water, Luffy raised his head, his face full of happiness. At this time, he looked at Vivi and Robin in front of him, with some doubts and dissatisfaction on his face. Why don't you need to walk down there? Robin looked at Luffy with a smile, his tone was matter of fact. We are going to fan the vice captain and serve the vice captain. Besides, Luffy, didn't you say it's fun in the desert? Why don't you go and continue playing? Vivi looked at Robin with a smile. She thought it was quite interesting to watch Robin teasing the Straw Hat Boy. After hearing this, Luffy curled his lips. Okay, then I'll go down and come back when I'm thirsty. After saying this, Luffy jumped off the Flying Mary and came to Usopp, walking side by side with him. Usopp turned to look at Luffy. How about it? Drinking water feels good. Yes, he went up and drank water just now. It's indeed good, but I have to continue training. I want to become stronger. I want to double my bounty and make it more. After Luffy shouted these words, he ran forward as hard as he could, surpassing everyone and reaching the front. Zoro and Sanji looked at Luffy at the front and shook their heads. Zoro regrets it now. He shouldn't have listened to the deputy captain and started training here. What's the use of this kind of exercise? I'm tired and thirsty, and I feel like it doesn't increase my strength. At this time, he turned his head and saw Sanji next to him. After seeing Sanji gritting his teeth and persisting, Zoro turned his head and his eyes became firm. How could he be worse than this curly eyebrow? Sanji on the other side also turned to look at Zoro. He also saw Zoro's determined face, so he became more determined. How could he be worse than this green algae head? Usopp in the back, looking at the determined Sanji and Zoro, felt that he was also inspired, and he had to work harder. Chopper, who was in the form of a reindeer, looked at the people in front of him. He also felt touched. The crew members in front of him were training so hard. He couldn't fall behind. He must also become stronger through training. Not only that, he has to work harder, doing physical training during the day, and studying his own Rambo pills at night, striving to make himself stronger and turn himself into a real pirate who can kill more people. After another hour, a tornado formed in the desert in the distance and slowly approached the Flying Mary. What is that? Luffy looked at the approaching tornado in confusion. At this time, above the Fatian melee, Vivi, standing at the bow of the ship, looked at the tornado in front of her, her expression suddenly becoming horrified. No, desert storm is coming, let's find a place to hide quickly. When Vivi shouted, Chen Fang stood up from the deck chair and came to the bow of the ship. He looked at the approaching desert storm. The tornado swept through the sand and dust below, and the sand and dust were flying in the air, just like a scene of world destruction. At this moment, Chen Fang closed his eyes. A realization came into his heart, and the prototype of a move was generated in his mind. 3 seconds later, Chen Fang slowly opened his eyes. As he thought, the desert storm that looked like a scene of world destruction was frozen. Not only that, the tornado slowly disappeared, and the sand and dust blown into the sky by the wind also fell to the ground, Go. Vivi looked at the scene in front of her and was very shocked. This was completely beyond her expectation. The desert storm dissipated directly in front of her. This was simply impossible before. How could a desert storm dissipate as soon as it appeared? It shouldn't have traveled a long distance in the desert and then slowly dissipated. Suddenly, she realized something and looked at her deputy captain. But at this time, the deputy leader looked calm and turned towards the direction of the recliner. After Vivi saw this situation, she did not ask, but her reason told her that it was indeed like that. Robin's eyes followed the movements of the vice captain, and she also realized that the disappearance of Desert Storm was related to the vice captain. No, it should be the vice captain, but she did not speak. The Desert Storm episode is over. The flying melee kept approaching Alabasta's palace. At this time, in Alabasta's palace, Hawkeye and Crocodile were drinking wine. On the other side of the palace, the king of Alabasta was anxiously waiting for the news. After waiting for 3 minutes, a figure walked towards the king. He was Ikaram. After the king saw Ikaram, he went up to him and asked hurriedly, "Ikaram, is there any news about Vivi?" Ikaram looked at the anxious-looking king and shook his head. "Report to the king, there is no news about the princess." "Why is there still no news? Will something happen to Vivi?" The king turned around anxiously. "Don't worry, king. If Shinigami is here, there will be no news, which is the best news." Ikaram comforted. "If you don't tell me this, I'm not that worried. Vivi, why does she want to cooperate with Shinigami? That guy is a murderous Shinigami." The king's tone was full of confusion and worry. After Ikaram heard this, he didn't know how to comfort the king. After all, he didn't understand it very much. In the luxurious palace, Crocodile smiled and looked at Hawkeye aside. "When do you think Shinigami and the others will come to my palace? I feel like I don't want to wait anymore." "Don't worry, it will be quick. No one can stop him. He will be there soon." Hawkeye drank the wine in front of him in one gulp. Crocodile also picked up the wine glass and drank it in one gulp. After putting down the wine glass, he looked outside the palace. "I can't wait to take revenge. That guy killed many people in my Baroque studio. I also want to avenge my broken arm." Hawkeye looked at his empty left sleeve with a fierce expression. Both of them were looking forward to Chen Fang's arrival. 2 days later, the Fatian many arrived in front of a huge city, which is the capital of Alabasta, Arupana, and they finally arrived at this destination. "Arupana, father, and Crocodile, I'm back, and I will definitely save this country," Vivi murmured to herself, looking at the capital in front of her. After finishing talking to herself, Vivi turned her head and looked at everyone on the boat. "Everyone, what you see in front of you is Aruba, the capital of Alabasta. The building in the middle is the palace, and Crocodile is there. Is it finally here? Let's defeat Crocodile, and then have a big meal here." Luffy waved his fist and smiled. Everyone looked at Arupana in front of them and were very happy. They had finally arrived and finally no longer had to walk in the desert. Soon, the Fatian melee flew into the city and flew towards the palace without any cover. The citizens of Alabasta below were very shocked when they saw the flying melee flying in the sky. They all wondered if they had seen it wrong. The ship was actually flying in the sky. The soldiers patrolling below were also shocked when they saw this scene, and they immediately began to report the incident. 5 minutes later, Crocodile received the message that Shinigami and the others were coming. He immediately walked out of the palace and looked at the flying melee in the sky with a smile. "Shinigami, you were really not covering up at all, you just came to my territory with such arrogance." At this time, Eagle Eye also walked out of the palace, and he had already seen the flying Mary. After the Fatian melee got closer, they were able to see clearly the people on the ship. Naturally, people on the boat can also see them. "That guy is Crocodile." Vivi pointed to a man wearing a yellow coat, a plaid shirt underwear, and a cigar in his mouth. At this time, Zoro was staring at a man below. Yes, he has seen the existence of Eagle Eye. "I didn't expect Hawkeye to be here, so have these two guys reached a cooperation?" Zoro turned to look at Chen Fang. He wanted to know what Chen Fang's reaction was now. Chen Fang had naturally seen the existence of Hawkeye, but he didn't care. They were just two guys with broken arms, so they couldn't put too much pressure on him. The final result was just two people hacked to death together. At the same time, Crocodile below waved his right hand, and people from the Baroque studio came to the tower of the palace one after another. They raised their guns and aimed at the Flying Mary. Not only that, all the senior cadres of the Baroque studio who were still alive also came to the tower. Chen Fang controlled the Fatian melee and flew towards the tower. After a while, the Fatian melee stopped on the city tower. Chen Fang jumped off the boat and walked towards Crocodile and Hawkeye's position. Zoro turned to look at everyone. The vice captain will deal with the 2-7 warlords of the sea, and the rest will be left to us. As for the opponent, let me pick first. After Zoro finished speaking, he walked towards a senior cadre of a Baroque studio. That senior cadre was Mr. 1, whose original name was Das Bonus and whose devil fruit was the Zonjin fruit. Sanji glanced at Zoro disdainfully. He was very dissatisfied that Zoro had snatched the limelight out of his first sentence and walked towards a senior cadre of Baroque studio. His target is Mr. 3, Galdino, whose devil fruit is the wax fruit. Robin walked towards Mr. 1's partner Miss Doublefinger, her original name was Zala, and her devil fruit was the thorn fruit. Chopper walked towards Mr. 4, his chosen opponent. Mr. 4 himself does not have devil fruit abilities, but he does have a gun that ate devil fruit. Chopper threw a newly made blue wave pill into his mouth. After taking the Rambo pill, Chopper's size reached 5 meters, which is similar in size and appearance to the crazy Chopper in the original work. But now Chopper has not lost his mind. He is very clear-headed now. This is the new blue wave pill he made based on the knowledge given by Chen Fang. The effect is very obvious. Chopper felt the huge power in his body and was very satisfied. He also became stronger. Usopp also immediately followed Chopper. He decided to help Chopper and deal with the fat man opposite him with Chopper. Vivi and Nami walked towards Miss Merry Christmas, and they also had to deal with their opponents. The devil fruit ability of Miss Merry Christmas is the mole fruit. Luffy glanced around and found that all the cadres of Baroque Studio seemed to have been selected. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, as if there was another cadre of the Baroque Studio who had not yet been selected. Luffy's eyes immediately stared at a little girl, who was also a senior cadre of Baroque Studio, codenamed Miss Goldenweek. From this moment on, everyone found their own opponents, and the war was about to break out. At this time, Chen Fang's body surged with a powerful aura, which instantly enveloped the entire palace. The weak ones immediately fainted and lost consciousness. Are you going to use Conqueror's domineering power to clear out the fish so soon? Crocodile's laughter sounded. Chen Fang unsheathed his sword and pointed it at Hawkeye and Crocodile. After cleaning up the miscellaneous fish, it's time to serve the main course. Oh, according to you, we are the main course. Crocodile threw away the cigar in his hand and looked at Chen Fang with a smile. Chen Fang did not answer. He opened fire in an instant, with gravity and Conqueror's double suppression. At the same time, huge smoke enveloped the battlefield. After Crocodile saw this scene, he was very shocked. It seemed that there was more than one devil fruit ability, so what Hawkeye said was right. Shinigami actually had 2 devil fruit abilities. But before he could be shocked, a long knife appeared in front of him. The long knife was wrapped in red fluid and slashed towards his head. Crocodile immediately used his golden hook to block the long knife attack. Of course, he would not be stupid enough to use his own body or elemental body to block this kind of attack. At this time, after Chen Fang saw that his knife was blocked, he immediately dodged another knife, which was the attack of Hawkeye. Not only that, Chen Fang also directly retreated. Crocodile looked at Chen Fang, who was retreating, and laughed again. Shinigami, you are not the only one with devil fruit abilities. Let me show you my devil fruit abilities. As Crocodile's voice sounded, a lot of yellow sand rolled up out of thin air. The yellow sand invaded the smoke and seemed to want to swallow the smoke directly. But at this moment, Crocodile's smile froze, and a long knife penetrated from his abdomen. He looked at the long knife stained with blood and was stunned. At this time, Hawkeye's voice sounded in Crocodile's ears. I advise you not to underestimate Shinigami too much. If it weren't for me, you would have died just now. At this time, Hawkeye was standing behind Crocodile. His knife appeared behind Crocodile. If he hadn't stopped him just now, Chen Fang's knife would have penetrated Crocodile's heart. Crocodile suddenly ran forward, and the long knife came out of his body. He felt a sweetness in his throat, blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and turned his head to look behind him. Impossible, how could he suddenly appear behind me? I was just staring at him. Crocodile looked in disbelief. What you were staring at just now was just an illusion. That guy has already appeared behind you. Hawkeye retreated to Crocodile and explained to him. In that case, could that guy have the power of 3 devil fruits? Crocodile said his guess in disbelief. From what we can see now, it seems that this is indeed the case. Hawkeye also confirmed Crocodile's guess. How is this possible? How could he have the ability of 3 devil fruits? Crocodile was still in disbelief. Does it matter whether you believe it or not? What matters now is how to survive. Today's Shinigami is much stronger than before. We'd better work together to try not to die here. After saying these words, Hawkeye came behind Crocodile and stood with his back to him. They needed to guard against sneak attacks from behind. Chen Fang looked at the 2 people back to back and raised the corner of his mouth. He was not disappointed because he failed to kill Crocodile. Although Crocodile did underestimate the enemy. But if Crocodile could be killed so easily in front of Hawkeye, then Hawkeye would have died last time. But so what if the 2 of them are like this? Their ending today is doomed. With a thought in Chen Fang's mind, the figure disappeared from the sight of the 2 of them. Facing the sudden disappearance of Shinigami, Crocodile and Hawkeye became more cautious, constantly observing their surroundings and guarding against sneak attacks. 1 second, 2 seconds, and 3 seconds passed, and a drop of cold sweat broke out on Crocodile's forehead. He was a little confused. Why didn't Shinigami launch an attack? But at this time, I don't know if they noticed that the smoke became thicker. Not only that, there was also another kind of gas mixed into the smoke. There's a scam, run. Crocodile's roar sounded, but as soon as he finished speaking and before he was ready to run, the explosion sounded loudly, and the violent explosion completely submerged the 2 of them. Yes, there was indeed an explosion, but it was not the deceit, but the explosion of the bomb. 10 seconds later, the explosion finally stopped. At this time, Crocodile and Hawkeye were both in a state of panic. Their clothes had been basically destroyed by the explosion, but they did not dare to take it lightly because the smoke had not dissipated and no trace of Shinigami had yet appeared. Only half a minute has passed since they encountered and fought Shinigami, but this half-minute seems so long. Careful, Shinigami is on your right, Hawkeye exclaimed. At this time, Chen Fang appeared on the right side of Crocodile. Crocodile, who heard the voice of Hawkeye, attacked to the right without hesitation, but his attack failed again. A long knife appeared from the left side and cut off Crocodile's left arm from the shoulder. With a thud, the left arm fell to the ground. But Crocodile didn't care about what his left arm was thinking at all. He quickly took advantage of the situation to dodge to the right and dodge the next knife. Crocodile, who dodged the fatal knife, looked at Chen Fang in shock. He was very puzzled as to why his arm could not be elementalized and turned into sand just now. Suddenly, he realized something. Why was there water on his body? It was because of this water that his arms could not turn into sand. This is a dry desert, how could there be water? Before Crocodile could figure out the answer, a loud explosion occurred again. Crocodile was blown away by the violent explosion and flew towards the sky. At this time, Chen Fang appeared on Crocodile's right side again and slashed at Crocodile's head. Hawkeye below immediately wanted to help, but at the same time, a violent explosion swept him instantly. Crocodile, who was blown away, immediately tried to resist the attack with his dark right arm, but he soon discovered that what he was resisting was just the attack of an illusory shadow. At the next moment, a long knife cut off his head from the left side. Crocodile lost consciousness at this moment, and blood sprayed out from the incision. Chen Fang looked at the dead crocodile without any surprise in his heart. In front of the smoke fruit, Crocodile's sha-sha fruit has no effect. The essence of smoke is a solid liquid aerosol, which of course contains moisture. The reason why Ruifang did not take action quickly, but instead waited for the smoke to spread, was because he wanted to use the ability to split the fruit to strip the moisture out of the smoke, and finally gather it to form a large amount of moisture. This water can restrain the sha-sha fruit very well, but Crocodile cannot carry out desertification at all, and Crocodile that cannot carry out desertification will be easily killed. Crocodile himself relies too much on his fruit ability. Once the fruit ability is restrained, his strength will be reduced. What's more, he doesn't know Chen Fang's ability at all, but Chen Fang knows him very well. After killing Crocodile, Chen Fang appeared in front of Eagle Eye again. At this time, Eagle Eye was already very embarrassed and had no good clothes on his body. Hawkeye held a knife with one arm and pointed it at Chen Fang, with a smile on his face. Shinigami, your sword has become faster, and your devil fruit abilities have become more powerful. Now I should not be your opponent, but I will not ask you to let me go. If you have the ability, just use your knife to chop off my head. After Chen Fang heard this, a smile appeared on his face and he said calmly, "Don't worry, even if you beg for mercy, it's useless, I will still hack you to death. In that case, let's do it." After Hawkeye said this, he took the lead and rushed towards Chen Fang. Upon seeing this, Chen Fang immediately stepped forward to greet him. The red fluid adhered to the surface of the long knife, and a violent explosion appeared again. Hawkeye was once again blown off balance. Hawkeye's knife blocked Chen Fang's knife again. The two looked at each other and could see the killing intent in each other's eyes. But at this time, fierce flames instantly surged from the ground and swept across Hawkeye. The moment he was swept by the flames, Hawkeye was shocked again. Shinigami actually possessed the fourth fruit ability, but soon, Hawkeye was no longer shocked. Chen Fang's long knife slashed through it, and Hawkeye's body was separated. His eyes and expression were frozen in that moment of shock. After killing Eagle Eye, Chen Fang sheathed his sword and touched Eagle Eye's body. Eagle Eye's abilities instantly appeared in Chen Fang's mind. 5 seconds later, Chen Fang stood up and walked towards Crocodile's body. After touching Crocodile's body, the ability of the Sha fruit also appeared in Chen Fang's mind, and he successfully understood the ability of the Sha fruit. After doing this, Chen Fang thought, the smoke dissipated, and the figures of everyone appeared in front of him. Of course, his figure also appeared in front of everyone. The thick smoke disappeared instantly, and everyone stopped fighting and looked at the middle area. In their view, the area in the middle is what needs the most attention, because there are 3 of the most powerful people in the world, and they are the 3 people who can determine the outcome of the war. But soon, they were all shocked at the same time. Because after the smoke dissipated, there was only one person standing in the middle of the battlefield, and that person was Shinigami. On both sides of the battlefield, there were giant and headless corpses, which were the corpses of Crocodile and Hawkeye. At this time, everyone in the Straw Hats and Baroque studio were in very shocked moods, but they were completely different. The Straw Hats were very excited because their vice captain won and successfully killed Crocodile and Hawkeye, the 2 7 warlords of the sea. As for the people at Baroque studio, they were very desperate. Their boss Crocodile was dead. Not only that, but also Hawkeye, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, died at the hands of that Shinigami. And Shinigami didn't even look injured at all. What's even more outrageous is that the battle between the 3 people only lasted a minute. They were not yet familiar with the enemy's fighting methods. Their old Yamato and the other Shichibukai were already dead. How could they continue to fight? Chen Fang looked at the stunned people and had no idea of taking action. He slowly walked towards the flying melee. The battle now had nothing to do with him, and it was time for the Straw Hats to perform. These people also need to grow up, and this is what they ask for. Although Chen Fang doesn't care whether they are trash, the Straw Hats don't want to be trash. After Chen Fengdu returned to the recliner, the people at Baroque Studio realized that Shinigami did not intend to participate in the next battle. If this is the case, they will be more relieved. Even if they are killed by Shinigami next, they will kill these enemies in front of them and take at least one away. At this time, Zoro's hand holding the knife became even tighter. Unexpectedly, the vice captain actually killed 2 7 warlords of the sea in 1 minute. With such strength, if he didn't fight hard, he would never have a chance in his life. Beyond the Sanji lit a cigarette, turned his head and glanced at the Fatian Mary, and then he looked at the opponent in front of him seriously. If he wanted revenge, the first step was to kill the enemy in front of him. If he couldn't even do this, how could he succeed in revenge? Luffy looked at the little girl in front of him, and decided to deal with her as quickly as possible, and then help others. Luffy immediately started the second gear, he wanted to be serious. After turning on the second gear, Luffy's whole body became a little red, which was caused by the rapid blood flow. After the little girl saw this situation, her face became solemn. She felt that the Straw Hat Boy opposite had become stronger. Suddenly, the Straw Hat Boy disappeared in front of her eyes. Her pupils shrank and she was a little shocked. And in the next second, with a bang, the little girl's face was deformed by a fist. It was Luffy's fist. The little girl was sent flying by this punch. At this time, Luffy was already waiting on the little girl's flight path. He once again charged up his strength and punched her. The little girl's face was deformed again, her pupils were somewhat dilated, and she had been knocked unconscious by these 2 consecutive punches. Next, Luffy's figure moved rapidly in the area, and the little girl's figure was constantly thrown away. Luffy's fist hit the little girl almost continuously. 10 seconds later, Luffy stopped, and his whole body was steaming. After taking a breath, he turned and looked in the direction of his other partners to see who needed help. At this time, behind Luffy, there was a corpse with a deformed face and broken bones. The little girl codenamed Miss Goldenweek was dead. At this time, on the other side, Zoro of the Three-Tool style looked at Mr. One in front of him and laughed. The Mr. One in front of him is covered in scars. These scars were all caused by him. This is the result of his training during this period and is also the proof of his progress. You performed well, Santo Ryu boy, but I'm going to get serious next time. Mr. One laughed, with a disdainful tone. Are you serious? Are you kidding me? Zoro responded with a sneer. As soon as the 2 people finished speaking, they both rushed towards each other without hesitation. The sound of metal collisions sounded instantly, and the blades of the 2 people collided rapidly, and afterimages were constantly being generated. After seeing that there was no problem with Zoro, Luffy's eyes moved to the other side. Chopper was fighting Mr. 4. His huge strength made it difficult for Mr. 4 to resist, and the defense of Chopper's strong body almost ignored the bullets of the gun. At present, Chopper is almost suppressing his opponents. As for Usopp, he is using the slingshot in his hand to help Chopper, but the help may be less. There is no problem here. The sight came to Robin's side, and the combat power here was relatively elegant. Robin used the ability of the flower fruit to engage in long-distance combat with Miss Doublefinger, the owner of the thorn fruit ability, and they were currently evenly matched. But Nami and Vivi on the other side seemed a little powerless. Both of them were scarred by the patented attack of Miss Merry Christmas, the mole fruit user. After Luffy saw this scene, he rushed towards the battlefield of Nami and Vivi without hesitation. He wanted to go and help. With a bang, Luffy punched Miss Merry Christmas on the head again, which sounded like a good head. It seemed like his head was good. Miss Merry Christmas was a little dizzy from the punch and hit the wall quickly, but she quickly came to her senses and quickly burrowed towards the ground to avoid Luffy's next attack. At this time, Nami's shouting sounded. Luffy, that guy can burrow into the ground and it's very troublesome. You have to be careful. Luffy ignored Nami's shouts. He closed his eyes and carefully felt the movement of Miss Merry Christmas below. He wanted to launch an attack the moment Miss Merry Christmas emerged from the ground, and then finish her off as quickly as possible. Miss Merry Christmas underground seemed to have noticed Luffy's thoughts. She kept moving through the ground and had no plans to launch an attack for the time being. After Nami and Vivi saw this situation, they looked at each other and decided to leave the mole woman to Luffy to deal with, and they were going to help Sanji. At this time, Sanji was completely suppressed by Mr. 3. His proud leg skills were completely blocked by the ability of the wax fruit and could not be used at all. Sanji looked around at the wax, his face full of displeasure. Now he couldn't even see his opponent, and he was completely restrained. Today, there are still a lot of scars on his body, which were injured by the hardened wax. Sanji, we're here to help you. Are you okay in there? Nami's voice reached Sanji's ears. Sanji immediately looked in the direction of the voice and responded immediately. There is no problem on my side. You can go and help others first. At this time, Nami's voice came again. Others don't seem to need our help. Sanji, just wait, Vivi and I will come to help you right away. After Sanji heard Nami's words, he almost broke his guard. What does it mean that others don't need help? She and Vivi came to help him immediately. No, what is this? Does it mean it's just him, Sanji, who needs help, and can he accept this? No, not at all. At this time, another voice sounded. Curly eyebrows, you are such a waste. You actually need 2 women to help you. But if they don't help you, you may die here. Listening to Mr. Three's jeers, Sanji clenched his fists. If it hadn't been for the wax on the ground, he would have stamped his 45-foot size on the Candleman's face. At this time, a sharp candle spear appeared behind Sanji. Sanji reacted and immediately evaded, but a large amount of wax instantly surged out from underneath him and wrapped his legs, making him unable to move at all. Therefore, Sanji's body was completely restricted and his body was penetrated by the candle spear. How could I lose here? This is absolutely impossible. Sanji yelled angrily, and then punched Mr. Three in front of him. Mr. Three was also knocked away by this powerful and heavy punch, but he was not upset at all about being knocked away. On the contrary, his face was full of smiles. This is because he clearly saw that Sanji's fist was covered in blood. The kid punched him on the hardened wax, and the fist was considered useless. Sanji still maintained his punching posture, and the blood on the back of his fist continued to drip downward. Even though he was seriously injured, his eyes did not waver at all. At this moment, a crisp cutting sound sounded, and all the surrounding candle walls were chopped into pieces. The sun shone in, and a figure appeared in front of Sanji, blocking an attack for him. Sanji looked at the figure in front of him and frowned. It turned out to be the guy with the green algae head. Zoro turned his head, a smile on his face. Curling your eyebrows, you can't do that either. You guy. Sanji gritted his teeth, feeling very unhappy. Sanji, I'm here to help you. Luffy's voice also sounded in their ears. As soon as they finished speaking, the figure of a straw hat boy appeared in front of them again. At the same time, heavy footsteps sounded, and a huge humanoid creature walked over. Woohoo, Chopper, you're here too. Luffy smiled and turned his head. And there we are. Vivi and Nami also walked up to Sanji. After seeing this scene, Sanji didn't know what to say. From this point of view, it seemed that he was the only one who had not solved the problem. Hey, I think it's better for you to let me out first. It's so embarrassing for me to stand like this. In the end, Sanji accepted the fact. After Zoro heard Sanji's words, the smile on his face became even bigger. With a swing of the long knife, all the hardened wax material under Sanji's feet was chopped into pieces, and Sanji was freed. After regaining his freedom, Sanji looked at his feet, shook his head, took out a cigarette and lit it. Mr. Three looked at the people in front of him, his face became very solemn. If these people appear here, it means that other senior cadres are dead or defeated. If you say so, he will also be defeated or killed next. But he will not accept his fate, he wants to live. The battle was about to break out, and Luffy and others rushed towards Mr. Three. This is a fair duel. At this time, on the Fatian melee outside, Chen Fang looked at Robin in front of him. If it were you, how long would it take for you to take over all the members and forces of Baroque Studio? Robin thought for a moment and gave an answer. 1 day. Chen Fang was very satisfied with this answer. That's fine. At this time, Robin's voice sounded again. Vice Captain, what should the next new force be called? Let's call it Shinigami's Eye. Chen Fang thought for a moment before replying. It's indeed a good name. Robin smiled and nodded. Then I'll go first. 10 minutes later, the battle was completely over, and all the members of the Baroque Studio on the scene were dead. Chopper looked at the corpse whose head was crushed under his feet and laughed. He was a real pirate now, and killing people felt good. At this time, a large group of soldiers surrounded the place, and King Alabasta, Ikaram and other escorts also came to Chen Fang and others. Chen Fang looked at the king and others and spoke first. Prepare 3,000 soldiers for me, and I will use them to carry the wealth of the Baroque Studio. After hearing Chen Fang's words, the people on the king's side immediately wanted to refute, but were directly interrupted. You have only 2 choices, refuse or die. As soon as Chen Fang's words came out, everyone above was shocked. Mr. Vice Captain, you. Vivi looked at Chen Fang in disbelief. Chen Fang responded calmly. Our deal is limited to the settlement of all members of Baroque Studio and does not include others. So, what are your options? He looked directly at the king and others in front of him, hoping to get their answer. We will do as you ask. The king sighed and agreed. You only have 1 day. After Chen Fang finished saying this, he turned and walked towards the Fatian melee. After hearing these words, Vivi sighed. The transaction was indeed just like that. At this time, Nami gently put her hand on Vivi's shoulder, and she spoke in a low voice. Vivi, this is pretty good, isn't it? At least, all the matters in your country have been solved. There is still one day left, so you can say goodbye to them. After Nami said this, he turned around and walked towards the Fatian Mary. Princess Vivi, we'll meet you on the ship. After saying this, Sanji also walked towards the flying Melly. Luffy glanced at Vivi with a smile on his face. Vivi, we are waiting for you on the boat. Zoro glanced at Vivi and turned away. The rest of the people also glanced at Vivi, and then turned around to follow the people in front. Vivi glanced at the people leaving, her father and Ikaram, and finally made her choice. At this time, Robin had already begun to take over the Baroque studio. At the same time, she also led the soldiers to carry the wealth of the Baroque studio. One day later, all the wealth of Baroque studio had been transported to the Flying Melly. Not only that, Baroque Studio was completely renamed Shinigami Eye, and their scope of activities is no longer limited to the Alabasta Kingdom. Next, their scope of activities will be the entire pirate world. And what they need to do is just like their name, Eye of Shinigami. At this time, everyone on the Fatian Melee was looking in the direction of the palace. They were waiting for someone. 3 minutes later, a figure appeared in their sight. That person was Vivi. Soon, Vivi arrived on the Fatian Mary. Nami went directly over and gave Vivi a hug. Welcome back, Vivi. Thank you, Nami. Vivi expressed her sincere thanks. What's there to be thankful for? We are all members of the song and dance troupe. Yes, we are all members of the song and dance troupe. Robin on the side also said with a smile. Yes, although Robin is now in charge of the Eye of Shinigami, her identity has not changed much. She is still a member of the song and dance troupe. Like Nami, although Nami is a navigator, she is still a member of the song and dance troupe. Get ready to set sail. Chen Fang's voice rang in everyone's ears. Luffy ran to the bow of the ship and shouted excitedly. Continue to move deeper into the Grand Line. I, Luffy, want to become the man of One Piece. The Flying Mary also moved forward after Luffy's shout. At this time, in the palace, the king of Alabasta looked at the flying Melee flying away, clenched his fists, and shed tears from his eyes. His daughter, the princess of Alabasta, Vivi, has now left him. Now she is a member of the pirate group, and she did this to save Alabasta. He now hates himself extremely for being useless and useless. In the end, it was his daughter who protected Alabasta. The guards next to the king were also very sad, but they could not stop it. If they stopped it, the result would not be what they wanted to see. At the same time, in another direction, a person was watching the flying Melee flying forward. After watching for a while, the man chased in the direction of the Fatian Mary. 5 minutes later, Chen Fang looked at the person blocking the front and was a little surprised. This man was burly, wearing a jacket on his upper body, several scarves around his neck, and black trousers on his lower body. And his identity is the second son of the Pirate New World 4 Emperor's Big Mom, Charlotte Katakuri. But Chen Fang prefers to call him Ka-er. Why did Ka-er appear here? What's the purpose of blocking his spaceship? Who is this guy? Why is he blocking us? Luffy looked at Katakuri in confusion. This guy looks like he's coming with bad intentions. Zoro put his hand on the handle of the knife. Is there anyone else coming to seek death? Sanji lit a cigarette. Chopper was very excited at this time, a little eager to try. He had already experienced the joy of fighting before, and now he wanted to experience it again. Chen Fang's hand was already on the handle of the knife at this time, and he realized that Ka-er's target seemed to be him. Although I don't know why, since I'm targeting him, I'll just kill him. In an instant, Chen Fang's momentum was fully activated, the long knife was unsheathed, and red fluid continued to flow around the bloodthirsty knife. A second later, he was already in front of Ka-er. When Katakuri saw this, he immediately prepared to fight back. When he found that he was shrouded in smoke, not only that, the sight and color told him that the next moment, he would be slashed by endless black sword light. After realizing this, Katakuri's arms turned black, and his armed domineering force was fully applied, preparing for defense. But at this moment, a violent explosion suddenly occurred, and he was caught off guard by the explosion. At the same time, a blazing red dragon-shaped flame swept towards it, and behind him, there was a long sword that was slashed. Of course, he would not sit still and wait for death, and quickly activated his Devil Fruits ability. At this moment, everything around him turned into glutinous rice, and the glutinous rice enveloped everything that attacked. A loud explosion occurred again, and it occurred continuously, constantly bombarding the formed glutinous rice. The fiery red dragon-shaped flames were also impacting the glutinous rice, and the long knife unfolded the glutinous rice and came to Katakuri. He wanted to dodge the attack of the long knife, but suddenly he felt his body sink, and a force of gravity fell on him. But in an instant, he finally used his arms to block. A sharp cutting sound sounded, Katakuri's black arm was opened with a cut, and Chen Fang also appeared in front of Katakuri. Looking at the Shinigami in front of him, Katakuri swung his fist vigorously. It seemed that he had hit it, but he felt that he had hit the air. At this time, all the surrounding glutinous rice disappeared, but the fiery red dragon-shaped flames and smoke still existed. Katakuri sensed the approach of the attack again. He quickly turned around and punched his back, but he punched through a phantom again. The cutting sound sounded again. Katakuri lost an arm, and the arm instantly split into pieces before his eyes and exploded. The shock wave generated by the explosion hit him hard, and he was blown away by the violent shock wave. Even though he was unbalanced, he struggled to use his fruit power to start making sticky rice. The glutinous rice made blocked the attack of the fiery red flames and also blocked a wave of violent explosions. At this time, Katakuri has realized that the smoke and flames can explode. Only by isolating the smoke and flames can he not be affected by the shock wave of the sudden explosion. Not only that, he also realized another thing, that is, the Shinigami in front of him has the ability of multiple devil fruits. How does he do this? Just when Katakuri was confused, the glutinous rice he made was wiped out again. A long knife and a figure also appeared behind him, and he immediately turned around to attack. However, the sound was still a phantom, and the cutting sound sounded again, this time from another arm. Seeing this, Katakuri kicked out his right leg with all his strength, and finally blocked the attack of the long knife. If he had not blocked the attack, the long knife should have penetrated his heart. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, his arm exploded again. The next moment he was hit by the shock wave generated by the explosion, a long knife penetrated and crushed his heart, and he lost consciousness and life. Chen Fang looked at the dead Katakuri, pulled out his long sword, and sheathed it. He put his hand on Katakuri's body, and he realized the power of the Nuo fruit. After comprehending the fruit's power, the smoke and dragon-shaped flames dissipated, and Chen Fang turned around and flew towards the flying melee. Everyone on the flying melee watched the smoke dissipate, and after seeing the deputy captain flying back, they already knew what happened to the man. I hope he can pay more attention in his next life. After Chen Fang returned to the Fatian Mary, Luffy looked at Chen Fang and said, "Vice Captain, who is that guy and why is he blocking our way?" "That guy, his name is Charlotte Katakuri, and he is Charlotte Linlin's second son." Chen Fang answered. "Charlotte Katakuri, and Charlotte Linlin, who are these two people? How come I haven't heard of them?" Luffy expressed very puzzled. "This doesn't seem to be a celebrity, right? Charlotte Linlin, isn't that Four Emperors' Big Mom's real name?" Robin was a little shocked. "Yes, that's her." Chen Fang nodded, indicating that Robin's answer was correct. "Didn't you expect that we would offend the Four Emperors now? Is it still too late to get off the ship?" Robin joked with a smile. Katakuri's appearance here means that he has already been offended. If he gets off the ship now, he will die faster. Chen Fang looked at Robin with a smile. "It's true. If you get off the ship now, you will die faster." Robin smiled and shook her head. Of course she knew what Chen Fang meant. "Who are the Four Emperors? Why will you die if you offend the Four Emperors?" Luffy asked a question that everyone else was curious about. Chen Fang glanced at Robin and indicated that Robin should answer this question. Robin nodded and looked at Luffy. "The Four Emperors are the four most powerful pirates in the world today. Only pirates as powerful as them are worthy of the title Four Emperors. So that Charlotte Linlin is the Four Emperors." Luffy seemed to understand. "Yes, Charlotte Linlin is indeed the Four Emperors. We generally call her Big Mom. The four most powerful pirates. That's really interesting," Luffy said with a smile on his face. At this time, Nami's heart was pounding, and she was already a little panicked. Did they actually provoke one of the 4 most powerful pirates in the world? No, they won't be killed, right? By the way, Robin, how much is the bounty for these 4 most powerful pirates? Luffy was very interested in this. Bounty. I haven't studied this in particular. After all, there seems to be no need to study it. Does the vice captain know? Luffy turned to look at Chen Fang. In his opinion, the vice captain should know everything. Edward Newgate, also known as Whitebeard, has a bounty of 5 billion. 100 Beasts Kaido, bounty 4.611 billion. Charlotte Linlin, codename Big Mom, bounty 4.388 billion. Red-haired Shanks, bounty 4,048.9 million. After hearing Chen Fang's answer, Luffy was stunned. Are there bounties that high? Can I reach that high in the future? After Nami heard about the bounty, she couldn't hold back anymore. Is it actually that much money? The bounty of these 4 emperors is more than 4 billion per capita. And the guy named Whitebeard actually has a whopping 5 billion. Can anyone actually get that bounty? Suddenly, Usopp realized that one of the names looked familiar, so he poked Luffy. Luffy turned his head in confusion. Usopp, what's wrong? Luffy, did you just hear the vice captain say the words red-haired Shanks? Usopp looked at Luffy and said seriously. Red-haired Shanks, I think I did hear it, so what? Luffy had a puzzled expression on his face. Have you forgotten? Didn't you mention Shanks to me before? And my father is also on Shanks' ship. Usopp's tone was already a little excited. You mean, red-haired Shanks is Shanks? Luffy suddenly thought of something. Yes, that's right, it seems that Shanks does have red hair, but is this 4 emperors red-haired Shanks really the Shanks I know? Luffy felt a little unbelievable. Then ask the vice captain, maybe he knows. Usopp's tone was urging. After Luffy heard this, he nodded and turned to look at Chen Fang. Vice captain, is the red-haired Shanks you mentioned the same person as the Shanks I know? After Usopp heard Luffy's question, he held his forehead. If you ask this, how does the vice captain know which Shanks you know? Yes, that's the Shanks you know. Hey, is it really him? It's so unimaginable. Is Shanks actually the 4 emperors? It's so interesting. Luffy had a smile on his face. He didn't expect Shanks to be so powerful and one of the 4 most powerful pirates in the world. At this time, Usopp was completely petrified. Does the vice captain's words also mean that his father Jesus is on the ship of one of the 4 most powerful pirates in the world? So is his father also that powerful? This is really unbelievable. At this time, Nami once again looked at Luffy with admiration. Does this guy actually know the 4 emperors red-haired Shanks, one of the 4 most powerful pirates in the world? This guy is so lucky. Wait, Nami suddenly turned to look at Usopp. If she remembered correctly, Usopp said that his father was on Shanks' ship, so his father was a crew member of 4 emperors Shanks. About this, Nami is even more unbelievable. Could Usopp, who was almost a loser in her eyes, have such a powerful father? Looking at it now, Luffy's background is too scary. His father is the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Long, and he also knows the 4 emperors Shanks. So what is Zoro's background? Nami immediately turned to look at Zoro. Zoro doesn't have a very big background, after all, I've never heard him mention it. At this time, Zoro sensed Nami's gaze and looked at Nami doubtfully. Seeing Zoro aware of his gaze, Nami quickly turned to look at Vivi. Vivi is the princess of the Alabasta kingdom, and her background is also very big. Then, she slowly looked at Robin again. Robin's identity was also unknown. She didn't have any strong background. What Nami didn't know was that Robin actually had a strong background. After all, he was O'Hara's only survivor. After looking at Robin, he moved his gaze to Sanji, but she quickly ignored Sanji. This guy probably didn't have a strong background. Even if he had a background, he seemed to have been killed by the vice captain. Finally, she turned her attention to their ship's doctor, the reindeer chopper. Their ship's doctor shouldn't have any background, right? But in fact, our chopper also has a background. After all, his Dr. Dory, Kureha, was once a crew member of One Piece. If Nami knew all of this, he would realize that she and Chen Fang were the only ones on this ship who had no background. Of course, Chen Fang does not need to rely on background, he himself is his own background. At this moment, Nami suddenly realized. Why was she struggling with this? There was no special meaning. She still made herself stronger so that she could better draw the world map. Anyway, she is no longer worried about the 4 emperors. After all, he still has a big background on the pirate ship. With the background of these crew members, 4 emperors is not worth mentioning. However, at this moment, a large ship fell from the sky and hit them quickly. Chen Fang looked at the big ship and raised the corner of his mouth. He felt a hint of fate, so he gently placed his hand on the handle of the knife. Destiny can be cut off with one knife. Why is there another ship flying in the sky? Luffy's mind was filled with doubts and questions. Idiot, that ship can fly, didn't you see it fall? Nami's voice sounded. Hey, it seems like that. Luffy suddenly realized, and Nami's words were like enlightenment. Do you believe there are islands in the sky? Chen Fang's voice rang in everyone's ears. Are there really islands in the sky? Shouldn't the islands all be in the sea? Usopp's words contained doubts and doubts. Will you know if you go and see it? Chen Fang did not refute. For something beyond their knowledge, letting them see it with their own eyes can prove the authenticity of the matter far more than refuting it. Is there really such a place? Let's go and take a look. Islands floating in the sky sound really interesting. Luffy had a very interested look on his face. An island in the sky. I seem to have heard this legend. Robin murmured to himself. At this time, Chen Fang turned to look at Robin. What you want in this country, you already get, right? After hearing this, Robin's pupils shrank, and there was a trace of astonishment on his face. How could Shinigami know this? Under Chen Fang's gaze, the surprise on Robin's face slowly disappeared and a smile appeared. Yes, Mr. Vice Captain, I've got it. You should know some information about Sky Island, right? Chen Fang said again. At this time, Robin fell into deep thought. Half a minute later, Robin looked at Chen Fang and spoke again. I do know some information, so shall we go to Sky Island next? Yes, according to your information, our next target is Sky Island. I understand, Mr. Vice Captain. Robin nodded. Great, can we go to the island in the sky next? It's so interesting. Luffy's face was full of excitement. Is there really such a thing as an island floating in the sky? Is this world bigger than I imagined? Nami murmured quietly to himself. Then, his eyes became firm. Since he wanted to draw a map of the entire world, this empty island must also be in his world map, so next, he must go to this empty island. Robin, which direction should we go next? Nami turned to look at Robin. Which direction are you going in? Wait a moment and I'll draw the map. Robin replied with a smile, and then began to draw the map. 3 minutes later, a rough map was drawn. Nami looked at the map and began to determine the course. After determining the course, Nami came to Chen Fang. Vice Captain, I'll trouble you next. Chen Fang nodded. Now there was only a desert, and the ship's progress depended on his ability. The Fatian Melee also sailed in the right direction smoothly. Chen Fang lay on the recliner and shook his head helplessly. It seemed that he had to consider one thing and resolve it as soon as possible. 1 day later, the Fatian Melee arrived at sea, and they continued to move towards their goal. At the same time, another meeting was held inside the Marine headquarters. Warring States sat in the first place, looking at everyone below. I believe you all already know the reason why you are summoned today. We're here to discuss Shinigami today. The only one left was the guy who killed Crocodile and Hawkeye of the 7 Warlords of the Sea at the same time in Alabasta's palace. After having such a record, his bounty should be increased accordingly, and more importantly, according to intelligence, that guy actually threatened the king of Alabasta. What Shinigami did not only slapped Marine in the face and made Marine lose face, but also made the world government lose face. Therefore, we must deal with Shinigami as soon as possible, and we cannot let him continue to be so arrogant. Everyone in the conference room nodded after hearing this. What Warring States said was very reasonable, and they all agreed with it. They then started a discussion about what to do with Shinigami. In the end, they came to a unanimous conclusion, which was to send Marine's highest force to deal with Shinigami. Then which Marine general do you think should be sent? Sengoku asked a question again. On this point, everyone had objections. Some people want Kuzan, codenamed Aokiji, to go, while others want Porosalino, codenamed Kizaru, to go, and even worse, Sakazuki, codenamed Akainu, wants to go. When the argument continued, Warring States stopped directly. He didn't want to continue the argument for the time being. He immediately raised the next issue that needed to be discussed. Everyone, according to intelligence, there is Demon Child, Nico Robin in Shinigami's pirate group. Therefore, we must bring her back. Under this premise, we will discuss which general to send, or in other words, we may need to send 2 generals. Do we need to send 2 generals? Is it really necessary? A Marine Lieutenant General asked. In order to ensure that Shinigami can be killed and Nico Robin, the son of the devil, is brought back, I think it is necessary. Sengoku concluded the coffin and stopped the debate with one sentence. Time flew by, and after another discussion, they had reached the result, and the meeting ended. The sun shines on the sea surface, and the sea surface also reflects the sunlight. The ocean light emits dreamy colors under the reflection of the sea surface. A pirate ship sails on this dreamy sea surface. Zoro, do you think our bounty will increase this time? We made a big fuss at the Alabasta Palace, and the guys we defeated were also very powerful. Luffy looked at Zoro excitedly. Zoro opened his eyes and looked at Luffy. I don't know the specific situation. If Marine knew our information, they might increase our bounty. After all, the bounty is based on strength. Before Luffy could say anything, a voice interrupted. It was Sanji's voice. Green Algae Head, according to what you said, your bounty will be higher than mine. Otherwise, based on your ability to get beaten up, do you still want the bounty to be higher than mine? Zoro looked sideways at Sanji with a very disdainful tone. That's because I was restrained. If that guy's devil fruit ability hadn't restrained me, how could I have lost to that guy? Sanji clenched his fists, very dissatisfied. He thought he just didn't find a good opponent. Oh, that's it, then I understand. Zoro laughed. I think you are right, Sanji, you have indeed found the wrong opponent. Luffy also nodded seriously. Sanji almost broke his guard when he heard Luffy's sincere words. Everyone, how much bounty do you have? Chopper on the side asked doubtfully. Chopper is still very curious about everyone's bounty, because the amount of bounty can well reflect the strength of a pirate. Not only that, if a pirate can't even call for a bounty, then what a failure he must be. After hearing Chopper's question, Luffy answered with a smile. My bounty is 3 million Baileys. Zoro's is, how much is Zoro's bounty? Luffy curled his lips and kept thinking about it. 5 million Baileys. Zoro answered directly. He didn't think Luffy could remember it. Oh, yes, it's 5 million Baileys, I remembered it. Luffy suddenly realized and laughed. What about Mr. Chef? Chopper looked at Sanji curiously. That guy's multiplier is only 1/10 of mine, only 500,000. Zoro answered for Sanji about his bounty, but his tone was a little, well, you know. Green Algae Head, I don't need you to remind me, and I don't need you to answer for me. Sanji walked up to Zoro angrily and clenched his fists. What I said is just the truth, don't take it seriously. Zoro looked at Sanji in front of him with a smile. My bounty is 100,000 Baileys, which is the minimum. Usopp replied helplessly when he saw Chopper looking at him. Where's Miss Nami? 1 million Baileys. What about Miss Robin? I think it's 79 million Baileys. Robin replied with a smile. You're lying, is Robin's bounty that high? Luffy looked in disbelief. You must know that his current bounty is not even a fraction of Robin's. Is this woman's bounty so high? Why? Zoro was a little surprised. He didn't quite understand why Robin's bounty was so high. Miss Robin, are you sure your bounty is so high? Sanji looked incredulous. It turns out that Miss Robin is not only beautiful, but also so powerful. Robin, you are so amazing. Nami was very shocked. Yes, Robin, you are so awesome. Chopper also expressed admiration. Miss Vivi, do you have a bounty? Chopper turned to look at Vivi. In his opinion, the bounty for this princess should not be low. However, Vivi smiled and nodded. I'm sorry, Chopper, I'm not wanted, so there's no reward. Is that so? Then wouldn't it be the same as me? I'm not wanted, and I don't have a bounty. Chopper was a little happy to finally meet someone who didn't have a bounty. By the way, how much is the bounty for someone as powerful as the deputy captain? Chopper was very, very curious about this. 1.4 billion Baileys. What, It's actually 1.4 billion Baileys. Chopper was shocked beyond measure, and he admired the vice captain even more. What a high bounty. Didn't you expect that the deputy captain's bounty is so much higher than Miss Robin? Chopper, you are wrong about this. How can I compare with the deputy captain? Robin smiled and shook his head, then moved his eyes to Chen Fang. When will I be wanted? How much bounty will I get? I'm really looking forward to it. Chopper's eyes turned into stars. I believe your bounty will be very high, Chopper. Chopper is very strong. Luffy patted Chopper on the head and said in an encouraging tone. I think so too. Chopper clenched his fists, his eyes and tone becoming proud. At this time, Zoro's voice sounded again. Maybe this time, Chopper's bounty will exceed that of the guy with curly eyebrows. Green algae head, what do you mean? Sanji's anger burned again. What, can't Chopper's bounty exceed yours? Do you really think you are better than Chopper? Zoro's tone was very provocative. You guy, I didn't say that. Although Sanji was very angry, he was still rational for the time being, and he would not fall into this trap. The relationship between Mr. Swordsman and Mr. Chef is really good. Chopper sighed with a smile. Do you feel the same way? Chopper, I feel the same way. Luffy seemed to have found a soulmate. He now felt that he and Chopper had too many similarities. Chopper cares about the bounty very much, and so does he. Chopper also thinks Zoro and Sanji have a good relationship, and he thinks so too. Chopper, we are so in love. I told Nami before that Sanji and Zoro have a good relationship, but he didn't believe me at all. Fortunately, I have you, and you think so too. This is really great. Luffy said there was recognition of Chopper in her tone, and resentment that Nami didn't recognize her. Hey, it turns out that Ms. Nami doesn't think the relationship between Mr. Swordsman and Mr. Chef is good. It's really strange. Chopper expressed his confusion. At this time, Luffy once again instilled his thoughts into Chopper, who nodded while listening to Luffy's words. Nami looked at the scene on the boat and shook his head. Sometimes these people make him feel helpless, but sometimes he feels these people are quite good. The people she ignored walked up to Robin. Robin, regarding what I told you before, can you do it now? Robin glanced at Nami and raised the corners of his mouth. It has been done before, but now, the speed can be accelerated a lot. Is it because of the Shinigami eyes? Nami guessed immediately. Yes, that's why. With this channel, everything we do will be much more convenient. Robin smiled and nodded. It's true. I'm really looking forward to it. Nami looked in one direction, her eyes full of desire and expectation. At this time, Vivi also looked here and slowly walked in front of the two of them. What are you talking about? Robin, Nami, we discussed that matter at that time. By the way, Vivi, have you made your choice? Not yet, I don't know what is better to choose. Vivi shook her head, with some confusion on her face. Take your time, there's no need to rush, this matter can't be rushed anyway. Nami comforted with a smile. That's true, Robin agreed. Then the three people began to discuss some details, and the Fatian Mary continued to sail forward. At this time, Chen Fang slowly opened his eyes. He would soon reach the empty island. He was also very interested in the thunder fruit. The fruit's ability should enhance his destructive power. Now that he has a lot of fruit abilities, he has begun to try the combination of fruit abilities, such as the combination of smoke fruit and split fruit, which worked wonders against Crocodile. Not only that, the combined use of smoke fruit, exploding fruit, and burning fruit is also very powerful. And if the ability of the thunder fruit is reunited, then there will be more combinations between them. The water contained in the smoke fruit, or the fire in the burning fruit, etc., can be used in combination. Thinking of this, Chen Fang raised his head and looked at the sky. Somewhere in the sky, there was an empty island. However, he didn't know the specific location of the empty island yet, so he still needed a guide. Next, they need to find the person who can lead the way. At this time, in the center of the Grand Line, on the highest peak of the Red Continent, the headquarters of the world government, also called the Holy Land Maria Jo, and at the highest point of the building, there were 5 people sitting around a table. They are the pinnacle of power in the pirate world, the 5 elders. You all know the information about that Shinigami, right? The middle one of the 5 elders spoke first. As that Shinigami, the guy who killed 7 warlords of the sea at the same time. The second 5 elders on the left said. Yes, that's the person. The man in the middle nodded. So, is this the person you summoned us for? The tone of the second 5 elders on the right was filled with confusion. Didn't first remember that Marine has sent 2 generals to deal with this Shinigami. The first 5 elders on the right looked at the middle one in confusion. Since 2 Marine generals have been dispatched, the guy known as Shinigami must be dead. The second man on the left spoke again. A dead man, what's there to discuss? The person on the left was very puzzled. What if both generals can't take him down? The one in the middle said in surprise. We sent 2 generals, how could we not defeat him? That is the highest combat power of our Marine. The tone of the first 5 elders on the left revealed disdain and condescension. General Marine is just the highest combat power of Marine, can he represent the highest combat power of world government? The 5 elders in the middle stared at the 5 elders who just spoke, their tone was calm. If you can't win it, what are you going to do? My first 5 elders obviously agreed with what the middle one said. I want him to be 7 warlords of the sea. But will that guy agree? He has to agree. If the 2 Marine generals can't take him down, I will go to him personally. He has to agree. Is that so? Then I'll be fine. Now that this small issue is solved, let's discuss another issue, about the so-called historical text. The other 4-5 elders looked shocked. Has this problem actually appeared again? But soon, their expressions became natural and relaxed, and they were very experienced in handling this matter. It didn't take long for them to discuss how the matter should be resolved. The night slowly fell, and a crescent moon slowly emerged from the clouds. Although it was a crescent moon, it still had brilliance. Under the moonlight, the Fatian Mary was sailing continuously, and in front of him, another pirate ship appeared. This pirate ship seemed a bit larger. It was slowly moving towards the flying melee, as if it wanted to devour the flying melee. Chen Fang stood up and looked at the pirate ship in front of him. After seeing the familiar signs on the ship, he put his hand on the handle of the knife. Sure enough, he was still going to encounter it. It's just fate, cut it off with a single blow. The long sword was unsheathed and put back into the sheath. And at the moment when the long sword was sheathed, the endless sword light completely smashed the entire ship into pieces, and among the broken ship fragments, there was a little bright red and a little pink. Chopper had just finished his meal and was about to go to the deck to enjoy the sea breeze. His mouth dropped to the ground. What happened in front of him? After Zoro noticed the sword energy, he quickly came out of the cabin and saw the shocking scene in front of him. Looking at the debris in the sky, Zoro seemed to have some realization. He immediately closed his eyes and sat down cross-legged. However, the shocking scene did not end there. The calm sea surface suddenly formed a huge wave with a height of 100 meters. The huge wave crashed downwards, knocking down all the debris. 5 seconds later, the sea became calm again, as if nothing had happened, as if everything he had just seen was a dream. At this time, the Fatian melee was also sailing as usual. Chopper rubbed his eyes, and then he saw the deputy captain standing at the bow of the ship walking towards him. After Chen Fang returned to the recliner, Chopper was fully convinced that what he just saw was indeed true. So, was everything that happened just now done by the vice captain? Is the vice captain actually that powerful? It's really shocking. At this moment, Chopper's admiration for the vice captain was as endless as the ocean. Not only that, he also felt inspired in his heart. He wanted to go back to the cabin and continue to study Rambo Maru. He also wanted to become stronger. 10 minutes later, Zoro, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, opened his eyes and a smile appeared on his lips. At this time, Nami's voice sounded in the cabin. Everyone, according to the map, we should be able to reach Gia Island in 2 hours. Once we get there, we should be able to get clues about Sky Island. As the words sounded, Nami's voice got closer and closer. Really, it's great, it's finally here. Luffy's voice got closer and closer. Soon, the two appeared on the deck, with Vivi, Usopp, Vivi and others behind them. At this time, Sanji was washing dishes in the kitchen. Vivi originally wanted to help him, but Sanji righteously refused. As a gentleman, how could he let a beautiful woman help him wash dishes? This is absolutely impossible. Everyone stared ahead, and a small island soon appeared in everyone's sight. That place was Gia Island, which was their destination. 2 hours passed quickly, and the Fatian Melee docked smoothly. As the clue on how to get to Sky Island on this small island. Then where should we look for it? Luffy turned to look at Robin. He knew this question and had to ask Robin. If you want to know how to get to Sky Island, you have to ask someone. Robin immediately told what he knew. Are you looking for someone? But it's hard to find someone at night. It's so dark. How can you find someone? Luffy frowned and curled his lips. Then can't we just look for it tomorrow? Nami said helplessly. So when are we going to look for it? Everyone's eyes were focused on Chen Fang. After Chen Fang felt the attention of everyone, he spoke directly. Then we'll look for it tomorrow and have a rest today. With Chen Fang's conclusion, this matter was settled. Then let's go to the island to rest for a night. It will definitely be fun. Luffy suggested with a smile. And Luffy not only made the proposal, he also jumped off the boat and turned to look at everyone. I think it's more interesting to rest on an island like this than in a boat. What do you think? We can still explore here. Forget it, let's not go, Luffy. Usopp looked at this slightly gloomy island with some fear. If you want to go, go ahead. I'm going back to rest. Nami turned his head and walked towards the boat. Then I'll go back and rest. Good night, everyone. Chopper waved his hand and walked towards the cabin. The rest of the people also walked towards the cabin. Obviously, they also preferred to rest a little on the boat. Luffy jumped ashore, glanced at the boat, and then turned to look at the dark island. Finally, he jumped on the boat and ran towards the cabin. The sea breeze gently caressed the sails and pirate flags on the ship. The night became darker and the chill gradually deepened. On the dark island, a looming figure is looking at the pirate ship on the coast. He looked at the pirate ship carefully and observed the pirate flag flying above the pirate ship. Not long after, the figure left slowly, without making any sound when he arrived or left. Not only that, under the cover of the night, even his body shape could not be clearly seen. The only thing that can be seen clearly is the pair of eyes that reflect the light. Time passes slowly, the cold wind blows, it is not so cold, and the night is dark and slowly getting brighter. The first ray of light in the sky makes the world bright and dawn. Sanji, I'm hungry, get up and cook. A sleepy Luffy shouted loudly. Already doing it. Sanji's voice came from the kitchen. Although the voice was a little low, Luffy heard it. Really? That's great. When can we eat? Sanji. Luffy yawned and rubbed his eyes. But maybe because his voice was relatively quiet, Sanji didn't answer him this time. Half an hour later, Chen Fang walked out of the cabin and looked towards the shore. On the shore at this time, there was a person lying in the grass, and that person was observing the Fatian Mary. After discovering this person, Chen Fang quickly appeared behind him. You must be Wenbren Kulik. Some confused and shocked figures suddenly turned around and looked at Chen Fang when they heard this. How did you do it? And why do you know my name? Wenbren Kulik asked quickly. Chen Fang glanced at Wenbren Kulik and answered the question incorrectly. Take me to Sky Island. What, you're going to Sky Island? Wenbren Kulik's eyes widened, and he felt a little unbelievable. Don't you think Sky Island is a legend? He asked immediately. I know he is not a legend. You just need to take me there or tell me how to get there. Chen Fang said again. I don't think I know you, why should I take you there? Wenbren Kulik's expression returned to calm. If you don't take me there, you will die, but if you take me there, you will hear the golden bell ring. Although Kulik's expression did not change when he heard the first half of the sentence, at least for him, life and death did not seem to be that important. But after hearing the second half of the sentence, he was shocked, with an expression of excitement and disbelief on his face. Are you telling the truth? Can you really ring the golden bell? Can you really do it? Wenbren Kulik asked again 3 times in a row. No problem. Chen Fang nodded. Okay, then I'll take you there. Wenbren Kulik agreed to Chen Fang's request. Then when are you going to set off? He asked curiously. In an hour. In 1 hour, okay, that's enough time. Wenbren Kulik nodded. I need time to prepare. See you in an hour. After saying this, he left directly, and Chen Fang did not stop him from leaving. After watching his back disappear, Chen Fang turned around and flew towards the Fatian Melee. Vice Captain, where have you been? Aren't we looking for someone? Luffy asked doubtfully as he looked at Chen Fang flying back from the shore. The person has been found. We can go to Sky Island in an hour. Chen Fang's answer rang in Luffy's ears. Really? This is great. I want to tell everyone about this. Luffy ran towards the cabin excitedly. Soon, his excited voice sounded in the cabin. Under Luffy's shouting, everyone also knew the news. They didn't expect that they would be able to go to the legendary Sky Island in an hour. It was an island in the sky, and they would actually be able to go there one day. Nami was excitedly preparing her drawings. She must draw the topographic map of the island. A smile also appeared on Robin's face. That place might have the historical text she needed. An hour later, when Brand Kulik appeared in front of the flying Melly, and on his shoulder, there was a bird like a parrot. When Brand Kulik didn't have the slightest idea of being polite and walked directly onto the flying Mary. He came to Chen Fang and looked at Chen Fang. We're ready to go. Chen Fang nodded and turned to look at Nami. Nami, I'll leave the navigation to you, and leave the confirmation of the course to when Brand Kulik here. After giving these instructions, Chen Fang walked to his recliner, sat down, and began to enjoy Vivi's service. When Brand Kulik glanced at Nami and said, "Are you the navigator of this pirate group?" "Yes, I am a navigator." Nami replied, "Okay, let's get ready to go." When Brand Kulik turned around and went to the bow of the ship, and Nami also started to start the flying Melly in preparation for sailing. Following when Brand Kulik's instructions, they sailed in one direction. What is this bird? Luffy came to when Brand Kulik and looked at the parrot in confusion. When Brand Kulik turned his head and began to answer Luffy's questions. The name of this bird is the guide bird, because it will always point south. If we want to go to the empty island, we need the existence of this bird. The guide bird that keeps pointing south. That's really interesting. Luffy pointed at the guide bird with his finger, but it was almost pecked, but Luffy didn't mind at all. It turns out that this kind of bird is a guide bird. Although I've heard of it, this is the first time I've seen it. Nami also felt a little strange and stared at the bird twice. Next, Nami continued to drive the boat. Luffy was also teasing the bird, and the flying Mary kept sailing forward. After driving for a while, they came to a sea area. After arriving in this sea area, when Brand Kulik turned to look at Nami. You just continue sailing in this sea area. If you haven't reached the empty island after sailing a certain distance in this sea area, then you can continue to circle around this sea area. After saying these words, Brand Kulik jumped towards his boat. After jumping on the boat, he rowed the boat to prepare to leave the sea. After Nami saw these situations, he was stunned. What was this man doing? He just left like that. Didn't he agree to take him to the empty island? Goodbye, Kulik, goodbye, guide bird. Luffy smiled and waved goodbye to Brand Kulik and guide bird. Goodbye, Luffy, I hope you can really ring the golden bell. Brand Kulik also smiled and waved to Luffy. Nami was very helpless when he saw this scene. He didn't even take us to the empty island. Why are you waving goodbye to him? Luffy, are you kidding? At this time, Nami was feeling a little uncomfortable with anger. Her chest was heaving violently, making people feel dizzy. Luffy, that man hasn't brought us to the Sky Island yet, why are you saying goodbye to him? Shouldn't we capture him and let him take us to the Sky Island? But Kulik said that we can reach Sky Island by sailing in this sea area. Luffy looked at Nami in confusion, his tone was sincere and serious. Looking at Luffy's face, Nami stroked her forehead and was speechless. What's the use of this guy's words? Forget it, let the vice captain handle it. So she turned to look at Chen Fang on the recliner. Before she could open her mouth, a stream of water suddenly appeared at the bottom of the Flying Mary, and rushed the Flying Mary directly into the sky. At this time, Chen Fang opened his eyes and looked at the water columns rising into the sky all around. The corners of his mouth raised. Then, he looked at the sky again. The empty island was above the sea area. What happened? Did we encounter another big storm? Usopp's anxious voice came from the cabin. After the words fell, his figure also ran out of the cabin. It's not that we encountered a big storm, but that we flew into the sky. It seems that we are really going to an empty island. Luffy looked at Usopp with excitement and answered his question. Are we in the sky now? Are we going to an empty island now? Usopp walked towards the side of the ship with a puzzled look on his face and looked down. Half a second later, Usopp stepped back with a horrified expression. We were actually in the air. It was unbelievable. At this time, everyone ran out of the cabin, and they were also very curious about what was happening now. Soon, with Luffy and Usopp's explanation, they already knew the current situation. They had indeed flown into the air, and they might really be going to the Sky Island. After learning this fact, they were very excited. They were finally going to the legendary Sky Island. At this time, Nami looked at the flying Melee flying upwards, her eyes filled with longing. Is she finally going to Sky Island? No, is she finally going to the Golden Island? It's so wonderful, that is the Golden Island, with countless gold. With that gold, she would not have to worry about anything in her life, and she would become the richest being in the world. Yes, Wenbelin Kulik has also informed Nami and others about the information about Golden Island. Nami also yearns for Sora and Sky Island because of the Golden Island. Robin looked at the flying Melee flying upwards rapidly, and she also had some expectations. Can she finally find the next text of history? The news recorded in the historical text in the Alabasta Palace made him and her even more interested in the historical text. She must collect all the historical texts to restore the true history of 800 years ago. Restoring the true history of 800 years ago is not only her dream, but also what all O'Hara scholars want to do, and she must complete it. Everyone looked at the various clouds that were constantly being surpassed by them, and became more and more excited. They had really gone to the sky, they had really reached this high level of the sky. More than 10 minutes later, the Fatian Melee arrived above the clouds, and the Fatian Melee also stopped here. A huge staircase appeared in front of them. Looking at this huge staircase, they were very shocked. Is this a scene above the clouds? Does the cloud look like this? Does the scenery above the cloud actually look like this? Can we walk up there? We won't fall if we walk up there, right? Luffy pointed at the stairs excitedly and doubtfully. Don't worry, you won't fall. Chen Fang's voice rang in everyone's ears. Really, Vice Captain? Luffy turned to look at Chen Fang excitedly. I said no, I just won't. Chen Fang replied with a smile. After hearing Chen Fang's words, everyone nodded. Indeed, if the Vice Captain said no, then it means no. After all, even if they really fall, the Vice Captain will use his ability to save them. So Luffy jumped towards the stairs excitedly. 3 seconds later, Luffy felt the touch under his feet, and more smiles appeared on his face. It seemed that he couldn't fall down. After finding out that he couldn't fall down, he started to jump up and down excitedly. After everyone saw this scene, they all knew that this ladder was indeed impossible to fall down. After that, they all jumped towards the ladder excitedly. After seeing this scene, Chen Fang shook his head and turned to look at Robin and Vivi. Why don't you go down and experience it? I won't go. I think it's better to enjoy the scenery on the boat. He smiled slightly and waved his hand. I'm not going either. I still prefer reading on the boat. Robin also had a smile on his face. After hearing the two people's answers, Chen Fang nodded, and with a thought, the Fatian Melee flew forward. Everyone, the flying Melee has flown away. Chopper's voice rang in everyone's ears, and this voice woke up the excited people. They immediately looked towards the original position of the flying Melee, and were surprised to find that the flying Melee was not there. Sure enough, the flying Melee flew away. The flying Mary is there, let's catch up quickly. Usopp shouted. Everyone followed the direction of the fingers and saw the figure of the flying Melee. At this time, Vivi on the Fatian Melee was also waving to everyone, and at the same time, his voice was also heard. Everyone, hurry up and follow us. We are waiting for you in front. Not only that, everyone also saw Robin waving to them on the boat. After seeing this scene, Nami expressed some helplessness. If she had known about him, she would not have jumped off. In this case, she would not have to walk. It would be better to take a boat. No, are we going to chase the flying Mary? Usopp said. He was very unbelievable. What if they don't seem to be waiting for us? Zoro shrugged helplessly and ran forward. Sanji saw this and immediately followed Zoro. He would not be surpassed by this green algae head. Everyone, let's chase the flying Tenmali together. Luffy yelled excitedly and ran forward quickly. Seeing this, Chopper also transformed into a reindeer form, kicked off his 4 legs, and ran forward, leading the way for the 3-body man. Nami's expression was very helpless, but soon, she suddenly thought of something. Chopper, wait for me. After hearing Nami's words, Chopper stopped in confusion and turned to look at Nami. A minute later, a 3-meter-high and 5-meter-long reindeer appeared above the clouds, and on his back, Nami was riding on him. Nami was very excited at this time. She turned her head and waved to Usopp behind her. Usopp, run, otherwise, you won't be able to keep up later. After saying this, Nami turned his head and admired the beautiful scenery around him with a smile. There is only one word that can describe Usopp's expression at this time, that is helpless, speechless, and powerless. But he had no choice but to move his legs and start running forward, facing the cold eyes and ridicule, facing the cold wind, and showing his unyieldingness in the wind. At this time, on the Fatian melee, Chen Fang looked at the scene in front of him and began to think about the next development of the plot. At this moment, a little girl with yellow hair appeared in Chen Fang's sight. Looking at this little girl with yellow hair, Chen Fang raised the corners of his mouth. Now he could find someone to lead the way. And this little girl with yellow hair is the first NPC of Sky Island, Conis. The flying melee moved rapidly in the direction of Conis, and after a while, it stopped directly in the direction of Cornis's progress. Conis was a little shocked when she looked at the pirate ship blocking the way in front of her. Can a ship sail on an island in the sky? No. Can a ship fly? The ship in front of her was actually flying in the air, which made Conis, who had little knowledge, have 100,000 reasons in her mind. At the same time, 3 figures appeared in front of Conis, whose mind was full of why and how it was possible. Children, I'm here to see your god Enel. Please show me the way. After listening to the words of the man in front of her, Conis suddenly woke up. Who are you? Why are you looking for our god? What do you want to do? Conis had doubts and wariness on her face, and in the deepest part of her eyes, there was a hint of hope and excitement. You have also seen our identity. You can understand that we are here to rob, and the object of the robbery is your god, Enel. You pirates are so audacious. You dare to rob our gods. It's impossible for you to lead the way. Cornis's tone was very indignant, but there was a smile on her face. After Chen Fang saw this expression, he was very satisfied. This is what the legend says, leading the way for the Trisolarans. It feels pretty good. At this time, Vivi had a look of astonishment on her face. The words the little girl said and her expression made her feel like her brain was shutting down. What did the girl mean? After Robin saw this expression, he laughed directly. It seemed that the gods of this empty island were much more interesting getting along with these humans than imagined. But what she was more curious about was not that, so she turned to look at the vice captain beside her. How did the vice captain know that the name of the god here was Enel? Where did the vice captain get this information? He knew the existence of Sky Island and the name of the god of Sky Island, but he did not know the specific location of Sky Island. This is the most interesting thing. At this time, Chen Fang also noticed Robin's gaze, and he probably knew what Robin was suspicious of or interested in, but he had no idea of explaining it. What he wants to do now is to play a great pirate who does all kinds of evil and a Trisolaran man well. Little girl, I advise you to take me there, otherwise, I will kill you. Chen Fang's tone became terrifying, and there was a murderous intention in it. After Conis heard these words, a look of horror appeared on her face, and a tear flowed from the corner of her eye. Please don't kill me. If you don't kill me, I will lead you. If you are threatened, the gods will definitely forgive me. At this moment, the best actress of the year, Cornish, took the stage. Her performance can be described as consummate and very natural. That drop of pure natural tears added a lot to her acting skills. Chen Fang looked at Cornis's acting skills and nodded. If you lead the way, I won't kill you. Okay, I'll show you the way right away. Cornis immediately drove Her Majesty, turned around quickly, and rushed forward. Vivi laughed after seeing this scene. This little girl's performance is really interesting. Her acting skills are much better than mine at the same age. It seems that Sky Island is not as peaceful as imagined. This god seems to be more unpopular than imagined. After hearing what Vivi said, Robin also smiled and said, in terms of acting skills, he is really good. He is a very interesting kid. After Chen Fang listened to the two people talking, he did not speak, and the Fatian melee instantly chased in the direction of Conis. But after driving halfway, Chen Fang suddenly remembered something, as if he had forgotten something. After discovering this situation, Chen Fang made a thought and instantly controlled the advancing Conis and let her fly towards the flying melee. The moment the powerful master stopped, Conis was stunned. Not only that, when she flew back, she felt that her thoughts were about to stop. What happened? Before she could react, she had already landed on the Fatian Mary. At the same time, 3 figures appeared in front of her, and these 3 figures were the 3 pirates just now. What is going on? What happened? Why is she here? 100,000 whys popped up in Cornis's head again. Chen Fang looked at the confused and puzzled Cornis and laughed, but he did not explain and let the little girl continue to be confused. At this time, Vivi actually had some doubts. Why did they stop the boat suddenly and why did they bring this little girl on board? Confused, she turned to look at her vice captain, then glanced at Robin, and finally, she subconsciously looked in another direction. And after she looked in other directions, she suddenly reacted. Wait, it seems that the others are not on the boat. They are still behind. I don't know where they are yet. Luffy and the others seemed to have been abandoned by them, so the vice captain should be waiting for them now. At this time, Vivi suddenly felt a twinge of guilt in her heart. It was so sad that she had forgotten those people. At this moment, Cornish's voice sounded. Excuse me, what happened just now? Why can't my Weibo move? Why did it suddenly appear on this ship? After asking the question, Cornis stared at the 3 pirates in front of her, and now they were constantly going back and forth among them. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.